Well, good evening, everybody. It's the Cryptid Huntress. I'm Jessica Jones. Welcome into our remote viewing show tonight. We are going to have a fantastic show for you guys. I have remote viewed the Werewolves of Ossory, and that is out of Ireland in the days of St. Patrick. Okay, and this is going to be kind of a wild and crazy ride tonight. Okay, and of course I do have author Ed Testerman here in the studio with me tonight. He and I did a show a while back on Viking werewolves, and this is going to tie right into that tonight. And I have a really cool angle on it because the data for this is pretty fantastic. And there's always been that question of, were these actual werewolves that we're going to be discussing tonight, or were they warriors like Vikings, for instance, who put on the pelts of animals and went into war beast mode? Okay, and so we're going to have some answers within the data tonight, and I can't wait to get to that because I think this is super duper interesting, and I think you guys will enjoy it. Okay, so thank you guys so much for being here yesterday. We had a great show with Brian Sang. If you guys missed that, we discussed Katy Perry yesterday. Last week was Justin Bieber. This week was Katy Perry and all of her Illuminati girl pals that were in that rocket that went up on Monday into space. I say that with air quotes. It went into space on Monday. Wow, that was such a fun show. If you guys missed that, please go back and watch it on A Glitch in the Matrix here in my playlist. We had a great time, and I want to give a big shout out to Brian Sang with the Full Disclosure Now movement. I will be at his conference in July down in Florida, the Full Disclosure Now conference. So please come and hang out with us down there at that. Also, I will be at coming up a little previous to that, a little sooner than that, I will be at the Myrtle Beast Bigfoot Festival. Would love to see you guys there. I think it's at the 4 Points by Sheraton down there on the beach in Myrtle Beach. And we're going to have a bunch of really great speakers there. And so y'all come see me there. That's May 9th and 10th. It's actually May 10th, all day on Saturday. So I hope that you guys will come and see me at that. It's coming up in just a couple of weeks, less than a month. Also, if you guys would like to follow along with my remote viewing data for tonight, I do have a Patreon. It's the Cryptid Huntress on Patreon, and all of my data is posted in there along with all the information about tonight's target and pictures, data, whatever, everything you need for this. Pretty much everything I'm going to show tonight on this show is in there in my Patreon. So y'all, thank you to all my members of the Patreon there. You guys are amazing. Also, I do have a shop. It's called War Woman Goods. If you guys would like to do a little shopping, it's over there. It's a great way to support the channel. Okay, well, I have a wonderful, wonderful co-host tonight. His name is Ed Testerman, Ed Testerman. If you look him up on Amazon, if you want to go buy his books. And so let's get into what we're talking about, and then I will bring Eric up. Okay, in a dense, isolated, inhospitable land in Ireland known as Ossary, huge, deadly wolves were said to roam and stalk the woods at night. The land had a dangerous reputation, and no one lived in Ossary until a clan of barbaric warriors from faraway lands, probably the Vikings, showed up and were said to have made a pact with the wolves. They had the ability, according to legend, they had the ability to shapeshift, and they were known to attack people and prey and livestock at night. The warriors were brutal. They mutilated bodies. They kidnapped children, and they burned everywhere they went. They were seen dancing and howling in the moonlight after attacking cattle and livestock and eating their raw flesh. They wore the skins of the wolves and smeared blood on their bodies, and they all ran on all fours. The most famous legend cites the warrior Laignech Fáelad, considered the original werewolf from whom the others descended. Another story recounts a priest encounter with a werewolf who asked for his help breaking the curse of his clan. It's said that St. Patrick managed to convert the part of the clan, freeing them from lycanthropy, while other werewolves continued fighting against English invaders, probably the Vikings, right? So were these Ossary werewolves actually werewolves, or were they men who were fierce warriors and crazy berserkers wearing the wolves' pelts? and maybe they were the S-Walkers. Y'all know what I'm talking about, the S-Walkers. We're going to get into that data. The Werewolves of Ossory were tasked to me as a blind coordinate remote viewing target a little while back, and we're going to get into that data. It's going to have some really interesting maybe answers for us tonight. And of course, I do have author Ed Testerman here with me. He has a fantastic YouTube channel. It's called The Bizarre and the Unknown. He's also an author. He has a Norse background and is really into Vikings and werewolves. So please help me welcome to the show tonight my good friend, author Ed Testerman.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Jessica.
Hey, Eric, thank you so much for being here. It's so good to have you back on the channel. How have you been?
Oh, man, between my youngest daughter graduating this year, we've had senior prom, we had Miss Dallas County, we've had senior trip, now we got art club trip this weekend, and we got graduation coming up, plus work. I've been busier than a hiccup.
Well, I guess that's why I haven't talked to you in a while. Yeah, I hadn't seen you in a while. I mean, we've messaged back and forth a few times lately, but yeah. Well, it's good to have you back. You're one of my resident Viking experts. Okay, one of my Norse mythology experts. Okay.
Yeah, I'm no expert. I'm a everyday learner. It's like my great grandpa always said. You know, boy, you're going to learn something every day until the day you die. And he goes, even then, when you die, you learn something new. So I'm an everyday learner.
Yeah, never stop learning. Me neither. Listen, I love to learn, and so that's why I love bringing people like yourselves on the show, so that we can learn what you know. Okay, and these topics are really cool. And you and I a while back had discussed the Viking Berserkers and the werewolves, the Viking werewolves in comparison to Berserkers, and kind of comparing and contrasting them. And I think this topic tonight is no different, really, right? Even though this is out of Ireland.
I think they're one and the same. You know, your Berserkers is what everybody calls nowadays Berserkers. They're actually Berserkers, you know. And then you got the Ulfanar, which was the wolf. You know, they were the most feared. The Ulfanar were more feared than the Berserkers because the Ulfanar were cunning. They were smart. They hunted like wolves. You know, they warred like wolves. Everything was based around wolves, where like Berserkers were bears. They were mindless. Just, I mean, you had to be careful around them. Even their guards that protected their backs, even they were known to get killed by, you know, their fellow Berserkers they're protecting, because they're just not in the right mindset. So when you get to talking about these Ossary werewolves wearing the skin and everything you're describing, to me, thank you, Walken. To me, it sounds so much like the Ulfanar, the Viking werewolves.
The Ulfanar, wow, it really does. And actually, the lore behind all this, with the Werewolves of Ossory, it sounds as though the werewolf men, the people that are, you know, that these are descended from, they sound like Vikings to me, because they said that they were invaders from a far off land, right? But I mean, how far off could that have been, though? I mean, I don't know. The Vikings settled all over Ireland, and I know in Wales. Listen, my dad always told me I'm a Welsh Viking. Okay,
so
right?
The Vikings, they settled England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales, North America, Ireland, or Iceland, Greenland, and the list goes on. They were very, very widespread, very, very widespread. And there's Native American tales about, you know, red-haired, long-haired, long-bearded natives in North America. Well, you listen to how they're described, it's Vikings, and we've got proof of Vikings from one end of this continent to the other that's older than anything else besides the natives. So, yeah, they were everywhere.
Yeah, there's been settlements found, you know, or artifacts, let's just say artifacts from potentially Viking settlements here in the United States. Swords and coins and runes and all sorts of things. And Maureen says she's an Irish Viking. I'll be
Mhm.
That's awesome. I'm a Welsh Viking, apparently. But in Night Gazer says South America too, ruins were found in Brazil as well. So yeah, all over the place, right?
Heck yeah. I got a kick out of Christopher's comment. Yeah, buddy, I forgot my regular hat in the living room, my comfy leather hat. So I had this one in here today. So I was like, I ain't worn this one in a while. I think I'll put her on.
I like your
But
hat, man.
yeah. Well, it's
You do have good
more
hats.
for a long time I found my leather one. I had my leather one forever. I love that hat. That is probably the most comfortable hat I got. I made the headband for it and everything. And that's normally what I wear, but I'd left it in the living room. So I was like, yeah, I'll just grab this one.
Dang. You know, I actually have a hat very similar. If I can get my son to come back upstairs, I will. I'll put my hat on too, maybe, if I can find it.
Go for it.
If he's got it, it's right across the room. I've got two hats. One of them has feathers and the other one doesn't. Okay. I don't know. We'd match. Okay. But anyways, that's funny. Yes, I don't usually wear hats too often on my show, but I'm a girl. Okay. But back to the Vikings. It sounds like you have kittens in there too, Eric. Did you?
Yeah,
have
I guess
kittens?
Elvira brought it back in here again. I had them taken out once because I don't want them in here because they're loud and annoying. But apparently, while I was at work, she decided they need. Oh, that bothers me because my office door's been closed all night. So they must have done it the other day when my daughter was in here. My daughter's been packing up and getting ready to graduate and move out. And yeah, poor old me's going to be an empty nester, which is going to be both a happy time and a sad time for me. You know?
Oh, well, she's just look at it this way, Eric. She's going out to conquer new lands, just like the Vikings.
That's what I tell her. That's what I tell her. And I said, we got there. I've traveled this world, and I was like, baby girl, hey, Robbie. I was like, baby girl, you got to do it too.
Yeah. This is funny. I don't know if Night Gazer's joking or what. I'm sure this is kind of a joke. It says those structures on the moon, Vikings. They've gone all over. Who knows?
It wouldn't surprise me because, I mean, these guys went everywhere. You know,
they went to the moon. Were they capable of space travel? It might have been.
Look at all the alien talk about how, you know, well, look at that alien races came out recently, the Nordics. You
That's
listen
true.
to the script in the Nordics, they sound very Vikingish. So hey, Kevin. So I mean that don't surprise me, but no, these we're getting off topic. I apologize, but
no, we're talking about Vikings.
Yeah, these I'm pretty convinced. I haven't done a lot of research on them, and honestly, my computer was acting up, so I didn't have time to take a quick peek at it, get myself refreshed on it. But they do sound very much like Ocerie to me. Very, very much like Ocerie. Yep. Yeah, Candy. There's a lot of evidence of that too. Yeah. Well, I mean, they were all over the Middle East. Vikings were all over the Middle East. I mean, one of the most famous ones to go there was Bjorn Ironsides, the son of Ragnar Lothbrok. So,
oh, that's right. That's right. We had that conversation because I'm descended from one of those families. That's right. Somebody in the family. It's not the betrayer. Okay. It's not the betrayer, Eric. It's not that one. Okay.
I got to pick on you a little.
Not the betrayer. Hey, if it was, then I have course corrected the family bloodline. Okay.
There you go, man. Hey, you know,
it had to stop somewhere.
It's like I teach my kids, my nephews, and my nieces. Like, look, always learn your past. No matter how good or how bad your past is, learn your past. And if it's something bad, improve on it. Yep.
Yeah.
If it's bad, improve on it. And I'm a big look. Oh, Caleb's in there. Hey, Caleb. Great video, by the way, the other day, buddy.
Hey, Caleb. Hey, Robbie. What's up, everybody?
You know, Robbie and I had a killer show last Sunday. Y'all missed that one. Robbie and I had a killer show.
I was in the chat a little bit, especially towards the end there, and it's always fun seeing you and Robbie together. That was a great show. Y'all talked about dire wolves, actually. Another wolf. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we commented on these clonings of dire wolves, and you know, just a sneak peek. You all go check the show out on the Bizarre and the Unknown. But you know, firm believer, I don't believe they're a true clone dire wolf. I think it's a cover up myself.
Well, I was kind of told that they're not a complete replica of a dire wolf. It's only like 10% of like dire wolf DNA or something like that. So I don't know. It's a bunch of Yeah, it's a little bit of misinformation that was put out to the public, is what I was told. But I don't know. I don't know anymore. It's I did a show yesterday on weapons of mass deception. There's a lot of that going on out here in the world. It probably always has been like that. But that's why we have these remote viewing shows, so we can dig into it, right?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
That's
no,
awesome.
I mean, if you actually, I mean, there's studies, there's stories. There are all these lands of these types of things going on, like your Ossary werewolves. I mean, Finland's got a very prominent one that happened in World War II that annihilated a whole platoon. No, I think it was a battalion. I can't remember if it was a battalion or a platoon of Nazis.
Really?
Took them all out. They just disappeared. They were in the woods, disappeared. Well, the Finns were part of the Vikings too. So, I mean, it wouldn't be far fetched for them to have Ulfanar in there as well. And I've got a good brother of mine that's he's how do I put this? Because I can't put out too much information on him. We'll just say I've got a good brother that's a Finnish. He's Finn. And he goes, no, that was our people. And that's when I kind of looked at him. Yeah, I was like, I sent him a little wink. And that's all, because I was like, okay. Because, I mean, that can mean several different things. He just kind of smiled and says, that was our people.
Ooh, that's awesome. Well, I was just thinking when you said that about the schmotzies. I did a show on the werewolves of World War II. Basically, it was Nazi werewolves, okay? But I talked about the Winter War, okay? And I believe there were really werewolves out there. I personally do. I think there were.
The book I wrote, I hand you our book one, The House of Battle, was based off of that very concept, because that was based off of all of the Allied soldiers, even German soldiers, talking about how these things transformed and would take out platoons of Allied soldiers. And they were known to attack their own people at times as well. So, I mean, that's what that book was based off, was them encounter. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Big time.
Oh yeah, because once the beast takes over, there's that Native American saying about the two wolves, right? And it's the wolf you feed is the wolf that you become, right? And apparently those werewolves back in World War II. I mean, it's just, if you're a werewolf, you're a werewolf, and the beast takes over. It's just the same with you and I did that show on the alleged. I mean, I can say alleged, I guess, but of the human-animal hybrid program they had going on for the super soldiers. We talked about where they were doing the gene splicing and the CRISPR. I don't know how they were doing it, but injecting people with like bear, lion, and wolf DNA and putting them in pairs, mixed sex, mixed genders, okay, like male and female, put them in those caves with the pentagrams on it, okay, all over the world. And that's a thing. Okay, they went before Congress and asked for the funding to be changed so they could eliminate the assets, and because the reasoning behind it was that the assets had gotten out of control, the beast had taken over. Okay, there was no more humanity left in them.
Yeah,
man.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's, I mean, a lot of stories will tell you that the natural born are uncontrollable, where the created ones are more controllable. So, because the dogmen, what we call dogmen, they're natural, so they're more animalistic than what we call werewolves, where keep a lot more of their humanity in them. And that's, when I've done that show on werewolves, I had to put this stuff in there because there is a difference. The werewolf is very human because it's a curse. Now, either you were given that curse by somebody upset at you, or you welcomed that curse and you wanted it. Either way, it's a curse. It's a transformation. Where, dogmen are that way 24/7. Werewolves switch back and forth. That's the. Heck yeah, Robbie. Heck yeah, buddy.
Yeah. The two wolves. Robbie, if you're welcome to join us if you want, Robbie. I'll send you the link. Just text me, okay? And I'll send it to you if you want to hop on tonight with us. You're welcome to. Okay. Now, I was reading somewhere, Eric, that today I was reading that one of the ways to turn into a werewolf, and this was according to the Ossary werewolves out of Ireland. They said that if first of all, you got scratched. That was one way. If you got cursed, because it was supposed to be just a big old curse. of a whole, population of people, men and women and children, all got cursed and they got turned into werewolves. But drinking out of the paw print, a track, like a print that had water in it, like rainwater, if you sipped out of that, you would become a werewolf too. How wild is that?
Well, yeah, I mean, definitely. And another aspect we have to look at on this is something in Celtic mythology that runs very, very deep, and is werebeast. I mean, there's different kinds of werebeast. It's not just wolves, it's bucks, it's hyenas, it's cats, it's whatever skin they put on. It's the same concept as the SWs. It's the very same concept. If you study how to transform into a werebeast, it is the same concept. It's just Celtic doing it. What is Ireland full of? Celts. So
Yeah.
are these werewolves there in Ossary? Are they the werebeast from Celtic mythology? That's another possibility, and that could be where the Ulfanar came from, because it's all the same. The concept's all the same, but you notice it's so many cultures around the world have the same deal. We here in the U.S. call them SWs. Around the world, they're called something else.
Yeah, the S-walkers. That's a big thing. Now, that's what we were talking about with the Viking werewolf show that you and I did, and I started coming across a lot of pictures. I was kind of looking up Berserkers, because we had talked about that before. Remember before we went live on that show, I had on my bear skin, and I couldn't wear it for the show because my dog started barking. She does not like that bear skin. Okay, but I do have one. Maybe that's how I transform when no one's looking. Okay, but anyways, I'm kidding. I am totally kidding, actually. But when I was looking for pictures of like berserkers, I did find a lot of pictures of like Viking men who were warriors who were wearing like wolf skins. Okay. Yep. So I know this is a drawing, okay, but I did find several pictures. Let's see if I don't know if I pulled them all up. Here's a couple. These are just kind of like drawings, and that's a bear. That's a bear. Hold on. There's one with a wolf. Some of those are bears. Some of that's kind of funny, right? Because bears and wolves kind of look alike from afar. Not when you're wearing them on your head. When you're wearing them on your head. Yeah. Okay.
Well, you got to think in that stressful moment, you're not going to pay attention. Hey, is that one a bear or is that one a wolf? You're going, holy crap, am I about to die?
Yeah. Well, they got to get hyped up before they go to battle, right? Before they go pillaging and going and doing their massacres and running wild through the villages and taking the kids and the women and all that kind of stuff, whatever they were doing.
So I mean, I kind of got into it a little bit on that. I have to be careful because when I start thinking about it and it starts coming to my head, man, I start getting into it, and I start feeling it. So now it's like, oh, okay, I got to back up a little bit. But there's a lot involved with it. The true way of doing it is not really known. There is very good speculation, but let's be honest. The truth on how they actually did it is not well known. It must not be in there. I was going to say I got some too, but I must be in the wrong folder.
Oh, you got pictures? Yeah. I have some more here, but I mean, once you really start digging into these stories, okay, these are historical accounts that people have passed down through oral tradition and in literature. Okay, and there was some kind of substance to this. Okay, from the very beginning, historically, there's some substance to this. The question is, were they actual werewolves? Were they transformed by black magic or by curses, or were they just warriors that tapped into their beast side, their beast mode? Okay, or it was a little bit of both.
There's a Native American story about that. It comes from the northwestern part of the United States. And these two brothers were out hunting, and they were very successful. And they came across an old man in the woods, and the old man was hungry. Well, a lot of Native people, when you came across an old man, especially if you think they're holy too, I mean, that's a big deal. You offer them food, and he asked for a little. There you go, Caleb. Yeah, he asked for some food, and they gave him some. He goes, "Yes, grandfather, we have more than enough here. Take some." And he was so blessed by their generosity. He goes, I will give you a gift, and I'll give you the gift of the wolf, and you can transform into the wolf and make yourself better hunters. So they were blessed for their generosity of giving this old man in the woods some food. Well, one brother used it for good, so he was able to transform from a wolf, an actual big wolf, looked like a wolf, not what we're thinking of, but an actual big wolf, and he was able to transform back and forth. The other brother started using it for evil, and the more that he used it for evil, the more that he could not transform back before he took the full form of the upright wolf, what we think of as dog man. And that's he was forever cursed to be in wolf form on two legs.
Oh man, that's actually kind of cool. It's almost like gluttonous. Like if you just want to keep transforming, you're gonna get stuck like that. It's like, did your mom ever tell you like, hey, don't stick your finger up your nose, it's gonna get stuck like that?
Don't eat watermelon seed or grow watermelons in your tummy. Yeah.
Don't swallow the bubble gum. It'll sit there for 7 years, whatever. And it's like you do it anyways. I'm not saying I stick my finger up my nose all the time. I'm just saying as an example. It could be anything. But yeah, it's not, it's got to be pretty cool being a werewolf if that's what you are able to turn into. I don't know. I've thought about how cool it would be, but I've also thought about how scary it would be as well, because you do lose a bit of your humanity when you go into that mode. And I would be worried about what you would do. I mean, imagine waking up, you got blood all over you, and you're like, okay, what did I do? Check the family. Is everybody okay?
Your Native American when you go through that dream state to learn how to harness that. Dog soldiers was a very, very prominent one. That's most well-known one was the Cheyenne dog soldiers. It wasn't just Cheyenne though. I mean, there was other Sioux that was a part of it. There was other tribes that was part of it. But you go into your dream state. You go through your sweat, and if you choose the right path, then you'll have goodness in you even when you transform. Versus if you go down the wrong, if you chose the way of the wolf, then that is the way of the hunt, and that's very dark and very evil. So, I mean, even in these stories here, they tell you that there is a chance that if you do this, that you become something completely different.
Oof.
So you got to be mindful. You got to have your mind right.
I always say that
Gary,
when we go out. Yeah, when we go out bigfooting and stuff, I always say you got to. One of the most important things is to have your mind right. It really is, and so this is. But we're not out there to cause any problems or hurt anybody or anything. But see, when you're out there and you're on the battlefield and you're wanting to go attack, go pillage, go kidnap, whatever you're going to do, you want to get a little crazy. And somebody had said mushroom soup or something. Mushroom. They were also doing psychedelics basically with, let's just say plant medicine, right?
Yeah, that is one theory. I mean, there's chanting, there's frequencies, there's a lot involved with it. Your mindset, you feel it coursing through your body. I mean, it's just your heart. It just. Boom, boom.
Oh man, I'm getting my spidey senses right now that there's a lone wolf in the studio. Shall we bring him up? I think we may have a werewolf in our presence tonight. This is Mr. Robbie Angel. Hey, Robbie.
That is the A1 cryptid right there, buddy. Hey, Robbie.
I've got my two werewolves with me tonight. Hey, Rob, I'm good. How are you?
Just peachy.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited that you're here. This is awesome. Yeah. How have you been? What you been up to, Robbie?
Oh, just writing and working and writing.
How's the new book? Have you published your second book yet?
I'm waiting on DA to finish formatting and all that stuff. It's like 99% there. So we're just waiting on that. I finished chapter 3, book 3 today.
Very nice.
Dog.
Hey, yeah. Yep. That's awesome. We've got two authors on the stage, y'all. Okay, Ed Testerman and Robbie Rip Rains down here, and y'all know Robbie. I didn't do a formal intro, Robbie is with DA Ex Machina podcast, you guys, and as a police officer as well out of South Carolina. And we have done some Bigfooting together, right, Robbie?
Yes, we have.
We have. We've had some sticky moments out there in the North Georgia mountains together. But yeah, we're talking about a subject tonight that's right up your alley, Robbie. It's werewolves out of Ireland, actually.
Yeah. Werewolves are definitely my cup of tea. Obviously, if you read the first book, you'll know that. Second book, there's an appearance by somebody that you're just gonna have to read. That person knows who I'm talking about, but you're just gonna have to read the book to find out who shows up with who.
I can't wait. I'm actually on the edge of my seat waiting to be able to read this next book coming up. Okay, and yeah, as soon as it comes out, and you're gonna have to come back on too, Robbie. Okay, so you make the big announcement there, or you can. That's funny.
Yeah, I just listened to his the other day. I accidentally fell asleep to it Sunday night.
Sorry.
So Monday I had to listen to it. I was like, I missed it. I had to figure out where I fell asleep at. The last part I remembered. I was just kind of laying there doing some stuff, and next thing you know, I'm like, oh crap, my alarm's going off for work.
You heard it here first, folks. My book is a sleep aid.
Wait, is this my hat? Hold on, I don't know if I like this one, Ben. I don't. This is not so much a cowboy hat. It's not like y'all's. I thought it was more like y'all's.
Yeah, you got it on back.
I was about to say, it looks like you got it on back.
Hold on, I got it out. Ben just gave me his outlaw hat.
There you go. There you go.
I want the feathers on it. Okay. All right. I'm gonna match you guys tonight. Okay. I got to match your energy. Thank you. Here we go. This is my hat right here.
There you go. Hey,
Charlie horse.
Yeah, it's got the turquoise on it. Yeah. It's what did you say? Charlie what?
Charlie horse. That's the brand.
Charlie horse.
Yep. You can tell by the horseshoe on it.
Yes. Y'all saw us here first. I'm wearing a hat tonight. Yes, when in Rome, right? When in Rome.
Heck yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I gotta join them. Well, I'm sure as heck not gonna beat y'all. Okay. I don't see a chance in any kind of competition here. But
oh man, I'm old and crippled.
Oh my gosh. Oh man. Well, hey, so we're here tonight to talk about the wolf. It's actually the Wolfwalkers. Okay, there's actually a movie about this called the Wolfwalkers. Okay, and that's actually a movie title, but I kind of titled the show that tonight because these are the Werewolves of Ossory that we're talking about. And the question is, Robbie, I was just telling Eric, it's like the question is, were these actual werewolves that we're going to be discussing who are in historical literature and writings and they're making movies about them, or were they actually like Vikings warriors that wore the pelts of animals that went into beast mode and went berserk on people?
Yep.
That's the question, right? Yeah.
I've always, Viking culture. I mean, you can see my symbol for Lone Wolf Forge and Customs, and over here I've got the Viking prayer. I've got all kinds of Viking stuff. That's always been, something that holds a lot of interest to me. I mean, there's a reason in DA's book when I turn into what I turn into, I turn into a little Fednar. And there's a reason for that because, Doc's into Native American stuff. That's why he was, an Ultimataneo. There's a reason why I'm a North Fednar. Because that's what interests me. That's what I'm always talking about. I mean, that's Viking inspired. But does that make me an expert? No, by no means. But I'm definitely very interested in that subject. And I heard Eric talking earlier, about, Berserkers are where we got the word berserk from. Yeah, that's where the word comes from, and it's an honest earned meaning to that word because I mean if you look up the definition of berserk, that's what and taking all the fantastical aside, these were actual real warriors. And whether or not they did turn or not, not debating that at this particular juncture. but they were some of the fiercest. The Berserkers and the Ulfhednar were some of the fiercest and most feared warriors on the battlefield. They did not care. They did not take prisoners. These are the guys that they sent in when they were like, I don't care if there's anybody left or not. I just want that land. I just want that castle. I just want whatever it is. And it doesn't matter if anybody, man, woman, or child, or beast is left. I don't care. Just, I want that. That's the kind of people that, I mean.
They're known to take wounds and keep going. Be stabbed by swords, spears, arrows, and keep going. It does not faze them.
Yep.
Now, when they come off of it, that's a different story. But in that trance, in that deal, I mean, you feel no pain, you feel no tiredness. Your stamina goes for days, and you just keep going. And they're known for that. They're very feared for that.
So, the real world story is, like, and Eric just mentioned it, was a trance-like state, supposedly brought on by, chanting and probably eating all kinds of
mushrooms
and things,
plants.
Just mixing it in some kind of big stew and ingesting that before the battle. That's the historical, what the general public accepts as the way that they were just basically like, you've heard stories of people on LSD and PCP that, have been shot multiple times and still keep coming and still fighting with the police. And, and just that, I mean, that's exactly what you're talking about. So it's not a modern day. It's it's what we would refer to as being on a PCP trip now, being on angel dust or whatever you want to call it. That's what they were supposedly, what happened to them.
Robbie, being a police officer, have you ever come across somebody that was out of their mind and kind of going berserk?
Yeah, I had to fight a guy one time who was on bath salts. He was 145 pounds soaking wet carrying a brick. And I was probably 250-ish at the time. And I was fighting that little son of a gun. And I had him down on the ground. I was on his back. He was on his chest. And he was still fighting. He was reaching for my gun. I pulled my taser out, popped the cartridge off, drive stunned him. And he said, taser, and started standing up with me on his back.
Oh, yeah. What'd you do?
I held on for dear life. Luckily, I found out later on he had a knife in his pocket. So I'm lucky that he didn't get a hold of it and stab me. But long story short, we finally got him in cuffs, got him to jail after we got him in cuffs, and the SRO that came to back me up, he didn't have the child lock set in his back door. Well, he was the closest car. We threw him in the back door, cuffed behind his back. He got his hands out from in front of it, or from behind him, rolled the window down, jumped out of his window. We had to chase him again, handcuffs. So we finally got him and got him in a secure vehicle. And that was back when you could still hobble strap somebody. So we hobble strapped him so he couldn't get out of the car again. We got him to the jail. He was in the jail for 5 days, I believe, before he even knew who he was or where he was at. That's how long it took him to come back.
Really?
I've heard stories of people on PCP that got shot or their leg broken. They're still up, running, charging, and attacking people. I've heard stories of people on PCP that like 10 cops were on this dude and he was still whooping their butts. I mean, that stuff jacks you up.
Oh, yeah. And I would assume that bath salts had the same, it affected the same area of the brain and just cut everything off. Because he thought he literally at one time told me he thought he was on the moon going to get his moon boots.
Oh my God.
So
well, hey, at least he didn't eat your face.
No, but
right.
If he'd have had a chance, he might have. I had the canine at the time, and he's lucky that I didn't have a door popper, because if I'd had a door popper, something would have ate his face. Because I looked up at one point and my car was doing like this, and I could hear her in the back. Yes, bath salts, J. Smith. They were bad news back in the early 2000s, I think, wasn't it?
Florida had a real bad problem with them. There were people that were getting their faces eaten off, and stay away from those.
Yeah, they were bad around here. It was around, I think, 2008-ish, 2010-ish time frame when that thing was hopping and popping and made its way up here. I mean, I still watch videos today of people on bath salts acting like, they're not human. I mean,
So-
it's just,
So taking that into context and having actually fought somebody who was out of their mind, berserk on something like that, I would hate to see what 10, 12, 20 people like that could do. If that, I mean, like I said, I am not a small guy. I might have been a little bit smaller then than I am now, but I'm by no means a small guy. And he was little. I mean, he was, like I said, he was 135 pounds soaking wet carrying a brick, and he stood up with me on his back after we had fought for like 10 minutes already.
Whoa. You know, that's probably why the Vikings, let's just say for instance, were able to go settle all over the world and had so many settlements everywhere, because they kind of took out all the competition everywhere they went. They
did what they wanted to do.
They didn't play fair.
That's, and that's why I like the scene in 13th Warrior so much, where the Tartars were chasing them in the very first scene, and they're coming over the hill, and they're like, "Wait, look, they're stopping!" And they turn around and look, and there come the Vikings down. It was like, and anybody that knows anything about history knows how bad the Tartars were. I mean, they were some bad dudes, and they saw them Vikings coming. They were like, "That's good, we're done. We're going back this way." Because I think that's true.
You got to think too, in that time frame, the Vikings, which a lot of people don't understand, Vikings were Finland, they're Danes, they're Swedes, they're Norse. I mean, it was a mixture. They were a Germanic tribe,
Russian.
And that's why if you study it,
the Russians from the steppes in Russia, they were actually founded by Vikings.
Yeah,
so
they were most feared. They were they were the biggest, meanest, strongest people that walked that planet. I mean, people all around the world feared them, and so when you hear about these, this incident of the, Wolfwalkers in Ireland and the description of them, it makes perfect sense because, the Vikings controlled most of Ireland, most of Scotland, Wales, England at that time, and parts of France even. I mean, it's not that far-fetched, but then you got that tied into what I was talking about earlier with the Celtic werebeast. I mean, you get them two coming together, you're going to have an alphabet soup of something that's just out of this world phenomenal.
Yeah, you are. And, werewolves were actually really common to hear about, and especially in the local legends and the lore of Ireland and all over Europe, really, but in Ireland particularly. And you can find a lot of Celtic werewolf stories. And this story of the Ossary werewolves actually involves St. Patrick, y'all. Okay, St. Patrick. Now, this was, to put this into context, this was around the time that, St. Patrick, the legend says that he ran all the snakes out of Ireland, right? That's part of his claim to fame there. He ran all the snakes out. Well, some people, I mean, I did a lot of little research today on this, and I was reading that they didn't have snakes in Ireland. Okay, they said there were never snakes. There's been no trace of snake fossils or bones or anything. They said that England had some snakes, they said, but there was never any snakes in Ireland. Like, what? So what is that about? Could it have just been that some of this was kind of made up or it was symbolic of Christianity running out paganism when it came to the snakes? And maybe there's a connection to the werewolves and St. Patrick, and that being kind of made up a little bit as far as like Christianity running paganism out of the country.
And don't forget, there's also a Scottish werewolf too, the Wolver, or Wolver, however you actually pronounce it. But so Ireland and Scotland both have lycanthropic.
Legends. Well, I mean, look, your Irish and your Scottish are cousins. I mean, that's honestly, they're cousins. They're both Celts, so I mean, it's not far fetched for that to be in Scotland.
That's just a very different legend. If you've ever gotten into that one, it's supposedly a benevolent spirit, whereas most other werewolf legends, the werewolves are not nice people, but this one was supposedly a nice person with or a nice entity, whatever you want to call it. But it's still like you said, it's interesting when you look and see that how close they are, and they both have some of the same type of legends.
That's right. Well, during the 1500s, I think it was the 1500s, might have been before that, they had the werewolf witch trials, basically. That was around the same time they had the witch trials, okay, the European witch trials as well. And it was kind of, it seemed to me like it was probably just more of a persecution, of people who didn't have the same beliefs as the ones that were making the accusations and things like that. That's what I think. Reading through the history of all that. But people used lycanthropy as a reason to persecute people, point the fingers, and get rid of their opponents and their enemies and things like that. But not to say that werewolves didn't exist too, because even today, I mean, even in Georgia, I just did a show last weekend on the different werewolf reports where there's actually a family. This is locally known, about a family up in North Georgia in Rome, Floyd County, where a family had just bought some property up there, and the dad had set up some trail cams around the property, and he went to go check the trail cams, and one of them had been pulled down and scratched and bitten, and he went and got the kids, and they went back to go check the other cameras, and they were confronted by like a 7 to 9 foot tall, what they called a werewolf. And it chased them, and it ended up grabbing the kid and held him up by the neck. And the dad shot it with a shotgun. And they were accosted by a pack, what they called a pack of werewolves all night. And this is pretty well known from people around the area.
I mean, that sounds just like the wolves of Palmyra. I mean, that. Look at that. I mean, that. And to me, that's one of the scariest cases, stories, documents, whatever you want to say. I just don't ever keep your guns anywhere other than where you can get to them.
Exactly. Don't keep them locked up in your garage
in a barn.
That is dumb. Yeah,
50 yards away from you. But the same thing, that they were attacked and stalked by a group of werewolves over multiple nights. And there's a lot of weird stuff that goes on, which we all know. I think there's a reason Stephen King based a lot of his books out of Maine. There's a lot of weird stuff goes over there. If you listen to Jeff tell some stuff that's happened over there when they're talking about it on Old Line Cryptids, Jeff said that it's a strange place up there because he's from Maine. And there's just, like I said, I think there's a reason that Stephen King based a lot of his stuff. Silver Bullet was based in Maine. It was based in Maine. Tommy Knockers was in Maine. I want to say the Langoliers was in Maine too. And there's probably more than I'm just naming right there. Eric, you can probably name off more than that.
There's so much supernatural stuff and cryptid stuff up in that area. Look at the Vikings. The Vikings ran out of that area by what they called Skraelings, and they described them as tall, hairy people that had spears and arrows. They ran the Vikings out of that area. That tells you something.
Yep.
They've also got other cryptids as well. It's not just werewolves and dogmen up there in Maine. I mean, they even have, I think it's like Pennsylvania, maybe they've got like a werewolf triangle or something. I mean, a lot of werewolves and dogmen sighted up there. My buddy Kenny is the main chapter head, I guess you call it, of the North American Dogman Project. He gets a lot of reports actually from up there. He lives in Maine, of course. And they got the big W. I know you don't like to say that word, Eric, right? The big W.
Yeah, not too many
times. Yeah, they have it. I'll say it one time, the Wendigo, so people know what we're talking about. They have reports of those up there as well. I actually got invited to go hunting those last year, and I think the trip kind of got canceled, I guess. But nonetheless, I did get invited to go up there. I might, if I ever get invited back, I'll go. Okay, I like a good adventure. But once I realized what they look like, they're actually like the White Walkers off of Game of Thrones, right?
I've actually got a really good picture that is for one of the books that I'm working on that is very, very close to what a big W is. Let me find it, and I can screen share.
Oh my gosh. There's something that you really don't want to encounter Okay,
Yeah.
it's I would be I would not want to encounter one, honestly, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it'd be fun to go. Say you went out and went and hunted some or whatever, not hunting, but just like investigated. But then if I ever came face to face with one, I'm not sure how I would feel about that.
Yeah,
I'm the cryptid
that's
huntress, but there's some things that I don't know about still. You know what I mean?
that's one thing I don't want to mess with. That's for daggone sure.
I mean, I'm tough, but in a case like that, I'm not sure how I feel. I actually was just watching a clip the other day of what they were claiming was a reanimated body of a man that had been burned to death in a fire, and his organs had all been taken out, and he was walking around the hospital. So I don't know if that's real or not, but it's out there. There's a lot of weird stuff out there right now. Yeah. Well, while you're looking for that picture, how about this? Why don't I talk a little bit about St. Patrick, and then we're going to get to the data, because I did this was a remote viewing target that I got, and it's going to. I think this kind of answers the questions, or I mean, I'm not saying I'm here to answer all the questions about this because I'm not, but it'll give us some insight as to whether these were actual werewolves or berserkers. Okay, and so back in the day, okay, so a priest had encountered a werewolf, and this is one of the main claims to fame. One of the main stories that comes out about the Ossary werewolves was that a priest encountered a werewolf in the forest that approached him, asking for help for his dying wife. Now, this man was actually a werewolf, and his wife was also a werewolf. They said that they had been cursed, and the curse that had been put upon that entire community was for 7 years. And they were going to be a werewolf for a full 7 years until the curse would break. But his wife was dying. He asked he asked the priest to bridge the gap, basically, between the humans and the beast, to feel some empathy for him and read her last rites before she died, because I guess they were Christians that had been cursed, okay, or they wanted to convert. Because the story, to me, it sounded a little sus, okay, because it sounded as though, like, well, they had been cursed because they were pagans, and they were begging for mercy before his wife dies to get her last rites. Right before, maybe even to convert to Christianity. That's kind of the way that I took that story. Okay, kind of. I don't know. What do y'all think about that?
I mean it's definitely a good possibility.
Yeah, I mean, like I've always said this, and I think, Eric, I know you agree with Jessica, but I think you do too. Mm-hmm. All of these legends and myths and things that we read about, they've got some element of truth in them.
Yep.
No matter how small or big, there's an element of truth in it. So somewhere in that, even if it's fantastical, something happened that that caused that. Whether it actually went down exactly like it's told or not, who knows? But because the argument with that is, if Bigfoot is hoaxed, and we kind of touched on this the other day with our show, Eric. Why are there every major continent and every major civilization? Why does it have stories of Dogman? We talked about the Pure Rice map, one of the oldest known written things there is. There are small depictions of Dogman type creatures and Bigfoot type creatures in the margins and around the edges of that map. If things like this are truly not real or just hoaxes, I hate that word hoaxes about when people just start throwing that word around. If it's not, then how do you explain it? And I've said it before. Think about how big of a company or an organization it would take to keep things like this going if they were actually a hoax. I mean, just take footprint, just Bigfoot footprints. How many times or how many people would this organization have to employ worldwide that work 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to keep just going out to random places that somebody may never ever go to or never ever cross, just to plant tracks or just to shake a tree or something like that. It takes more faith to believe that it's a hoax, in my opinion, than it does to believe these things are real.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've seen some weird stuff, in my days. And Robbie, there have been 2 times that you and I have been surrounded in the woods by creatures, creatures,
Yes,
and that was not a good feeling. That was very real. I mean, that's just a couple of incidents where we were together, where we experienced something like that. And so we know that these things that aren't supposed to exist. And so that's not even a question. Actually, the origin story, if you want to call it like an origin story, it sounds like I'm talking about Marvel or something. It's so there's a medieval Irish text that was talking about this werewolf guy. Now it says that it all started off with this guy named Laignech Fáelad. I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong, but it says that he was a legendary warrior werewolf, actually. And it says that he was believed to be the progenitor of a clan of werewolves linked to the kingship of Ossary in Eastern Ireland. Now this is the map right here to show you, give you an idea. It's in the red right there. That is where this area is. And it says that this is a quote from a literary text. Hold on one second. Okay, sorry, my dog. She needs some treats, y'all. Okay, it says he was a man that used to go wolfing he was shaped into a wolf. So he would shapeshift into the shapes of wolves. He used to go, and his offspring used to go after him, and they used to kill the herds after the fashion of wolves. And so that it is that he used to be called Laignech Fáelad, for he was the first of them who went into a wolf shape. So he was the very first werewolf, according to these legends. And everyone that came after him, all of his sons, he begot his son, who begot another son, who begot another son. And so that's how they started. That's how they started. Apparently, I guess he was cursed. And so they had the bloodline that went down. They say that his bloodline is still around that area today, as a matter of fact. It's not surprising. I was actually watching King Charles out of England was talking to someone on, talking about, he was kind of bragging about how he is a descendant of Vlad the Impaler. And he actually lives in Vlad, we consider like Dracula, living in his castle today. Okay, it's one of his castles at least. So it's the blue bloods, right? I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow. It started making me kind of wonder a little bit about, okay, well, the story of St. Patrick, he ran all the snakes out of Ireland. Well, if they didn't have actual snakes, what if they were like reptilians? What if he ran the reptilians out of Ireland? It's just a question. What do y'all think? Is it crazy to think that?
I mean, I don't think it's any crazier than any other thing that's out there. I mean,
yeah. I mean, you got to put it in that realm of possibility. Otherwise, you'd be doing it a disservice. Until you can prove otherwise, not saying it's the most highly valued possibility, but that you have to put that in the realm of possibility. Some of the stuff, yeah, you can definitely throw out. No way. But this, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's just something to consider because, well, it could be all symbolic of Christianity running out the paganism, right? It could be that, we have to kind of look at it from every angle, right? Gotta look at it from every angle. And I have had people who have been in my chat say, well, they were reptilians in Ireland. That's what he ran out. It was those blue bloodlines and stuff, like the blue bloods, right? And so it's just a possibility for that, and that could be kind of an origin of the werewolf story as well. It could be that maybe it had religious connotations to it, and that's what it was symbolic, right?
Well, I mean, if you really look at like any of the werewolf legends from that time, most all of them have some type of religious connotation to it. I mean, like you mentioned earlier, Jessica, the werewolf trials. I mean, that was, and I hate to use Christianity to it because I don't believe that those were true Christians. They were wanting everybody to believe they were, but they were using that as an excuse to get rid of people they didn't want, like you said. If people didn't conform to what they thought they should be, not what the Bible or God said they should be, what those people being the operative word there thought they should be and thought they should be doing, they used a lot of that as the same thing with the witches. You know, they used that as an excuse to silence people. You know,
Yeah.
and a lot of the people that were accused were poor people that couldn't fight back. I mean, how many famous or rich people ever got accused of, because they could get away with anything they wanted to. I mean, let's be honest.
Judges and
Yeah. So
politicians and business owners.
How many really wealthy people ever got accused of being a witch or a werewolf, and it made, Peter Stute was not, he wasn't, he was just a poor, farmer. The other kid, the one that was, I can't remember his name. Eric, help me out if you remember, but the one that was
Yeah.
You're talking about the ones that got accused of being werewolves, like Peter Stube.
Peter Stute was one of they executed him, but there was another one, and instead of killing him, they ended up sentencing him to a convent, and he ended up dying later on. But he had some form of, I ain't gonna use the R word, but mental R word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they tortured these people and got them to admit under the
duress,
under duress, that they were werewolves or witches or whatever, and that, okay, you admitted it.
Yeah, a good detective can make somebody admit to something they didn't do, I guess, and that's actually a bad detective. But I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, back in them days, prime example, look at the Templars. They tortured them to make them say stuff. That was very common in them days. Up until the early 1800s, that stuff was still. Hold on, I'm sorry, guys. 9, stoppa. I got 2 werewolves going at it at my feet right now. They up until I think it was like even late 1800s, they were still torturing people to make them say what they wanted to say, just so they can have that conviction. Hey, look what I did.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So all these. If you want to look at it and say, well, the Norse werewolves, yes, they did have religious connotations, because Ulfhednar were literally the dogs of Odin, and how many people worshipped Odin?
Yeah, there's a reason why I carry. Yeah,
they were Odin's wolves or Odin's dogs of Odin. People, there's different people who say it different ways, but basically they were supposedly Odin's personal protectors and his personal army, and if you were seen to be one of his chosen if you were allowed to become a Ulfhednar. So that's may not be religion and what we all nowadays think of religion, because most of the time people talk religion, they're either talking Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism, the main 4, or maybe or what's the I feel like an idiot. Being a Muslim. I was trying to think of the correct word. I know it's Muslim, but what's the Hinduism?
Oh,
there's also
Arab. You got the Sheiks. You got
Islam. Thank you, Don. Islam. That's what I was trying to think of. I knew there were Muslims, but I couldn't think. That just left me. Sorry.
I couldn't think of it either, Robbie. Don't feel bad. Okay.
I've been writing too much werewolf and all that kind of stuff, and that word just left me.
Man. Well, okay. Well, so speaking on all this, right? I was kind of just glancing down at my notes, and it's really interesting because they're talking about how the story goes that these werewolves, these people who were werewolves, were cursed for their they said divine sin. Was that how they said it? Oh, it was divine punishment for their sins, right? That's why they were cursed as werewolves. And according to what is written, when St. Patrick would go out and preach sermons on Christianity in Ireland, he encountered a clan of people who vehemently opposed him, and they would mock him by howling like wolves during his sermon. Okay, during his sermon, they would go out there and they would start howling like wolves. Okay, so that didn't give it didn't squash the rumors that there were werewolves out there. These people were acting like wolves. Okay, and they were doing that on purpose to mock what he was saying. Is what they were saying. So Just like is that your dog, Eric? That's cute.
Yeah, I'm sorry. They are.
No, I love it.
going
My
at
dog
it
is over
over-
here doing the same. No, it was
Yeah,
funny because right when I said they were howling like wolves, your little dog was like, "Rawr."
Yeah, Boar and Snow are going at it under my feet. I was like, I can't. No, I'll get onto them and look at me like, I'm sorry, Daddy. And then I look away and they're right back at it again. They can't do it outside. The door open. No,
I love it. My son just took my dog outside, so that's good. Okay, so Saint Patrick used to openly pray that that God would punish them for acting like that. Okay, he would pray, and so the result was a temporary transformation of the entire clan into wolves who roamed the woods as their now wolf counterparts. Despite their wolf-like nature, they retained their human thought process and were equally dangerous, preying on humans as well as other creatures. Of course, it wasn't permanent. It was every 7 years they would transform. 7 is an interesting number because isn't it when you break a mirror, you have 7 years of bad luck?
7 years
right?
bad luck. Yep.
Yeah. Seven is attached to curses because that would be a curse, right? If you broke a mirror and you had bad luck, you kind of cursed yourself there, buddy.
Yep.
Yeah, if you break a mirror, I haven't broken a mirror in a long. I don't think I've ever broken a mirror I can remember, but I've broken some glass. But nonetheless, mirror's a whole other story there. But okay, so it was a battle between good and evil, according to some of these accounts, right? And the Christianity side was the good, and the pagan side was the bad. Okay, and so that I think that's why it seems so symbolic, and so I had to bring that up before we get into my remote viewing data for this, and the data is pretty cut and dry for what these werewolves of Ossary are. Okay, and let's just get into this. Let me get this over with because this is, like I said, it's pretty cut and dry. When I was remote viewing this, actually, I'm going to say this a couple weeks ago. I was seeing what I saw remote viewing was like a battlefield or something. I felt like I was in a war zone, right? And let me go over this sensory data. That's what the audience likes to hear, sensory data. So I picked up on stinging, piercing, aching, hot, subliminal, focused, transforming, which is interesting. Violent, fear, death, deadly, fatal, simple, and atrocious. Now, this is a blind target. I was given a set of coordinates for this, and that's some of the data that I got. I was seeing like metal. I wrote down hot poker, something that was transformative. I kept getting violent data, like violence is necessary, is what I kept hearing. It's the best option. I picked up on like a military, like different branches of the military, and blood and bloodshed. I kept hearing like the land requires blood. Okay, so there's a whole lot of blood and war and stuff like that. So, but I was picking up on like a battleground, and I wrote down the angel of death, and I drew a picture that looked like an angel of death with a grim reaper kind of, and that's what I saw when I was remote viewing that. I also
It's interesting to say the blood thing because where I'm currently doing that werewolf/dogman investigation, there was a lot of bloodshed there from Civil War. So it's interesting you say that because that's what's going on in that area.
Well, also, hot poker is very interesting because what was one of the torture methods they used to do to get people to admit it? Peeling their skin off with a hot poker.
Yeah.
Oh my God. They did have a lot of weird torture devices back then, didn't they? Like, was it the Iron Maiden? And that was like medieval times, right?
Yep.
And then torture rack, you got the spread eagle. What was that one?
Oh, yes. Okay. That's actually okay. I'm going to show the picture of my drawing that I drew, right? Because I remember after I started looking at this data, I thought about that Vikings show, right? The Vikings, and it seems like they did that thing where they spliced somebody down their back and they flayed him open.
Yeah, that's what that's called.
And that's kind of what this drawing. I don't know if y'all can see this, but it kind of looks. I'm not saying that's what that is. I thought it was the Grim Reaper or something, but it could be like somebody's skin like open.
Yeah.
Like, that sounds horrible, y'all. I'm sorry.
They did that with a cat of nine tails, and usually that's that long
the blood eagle
club with the whip like multiple whip extensions on them, and they usually tipped them with like bone and
metal hooks,
thorns, metal hooks, anything they could get it, and it would just the word flay. They would flay their skin open.
Ew.
And the other one Eric was talking about, you know, they have a, and this was typically one that they would do for males, is they'd have that big sharpened stake, and they would strip the guys completely naked and put them on the pole, tie their arms around it and their legs around it.
Oh.
And it was a grease pole, and they were trying to hold on, and they would slowly slide down the pole until they reached the sharp pointy end, in the end that they didn't want the sharp pointy end in, and ain't nothing they do, and you just slowly slide down on it. And another form of that, they would take a wedge-shaped piece of wood, same thing, strip them completely naked, and tie them across that wood, and just, you know, put weights on their arms and legs, and, you know, it slowly cut them in half. So yeah, they had a lot of
yuck.
What
They used to
made
quarter people too.
Laignech Fáelad famous was you put them on a sharpened wooden stick and run it through their trying to think YouTube friendly way of putting this.
Their nether
Through the
region.
backside and out the mouth. Yeah, that's
They got
that was
shish
another-
kebab, basically. That's what happened.
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
much.
Yeah.
I'm
Then
kind
there
of
was-
curious on what. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Robbie.
I was gonna say that then they had and I can't remember what it was exactly called, but they used it in that movie with Gary Oldman, where he was the priest that got his hand cut, or his wife was the werewolf or whatever, but he was killing all werewolves. It's this big metal calf or pig or whatever, but they would set it over there and put the people inside of it, or the person inside of it, shut the door and light a fire underneath it, and it would slowly heat up and burn them to death. That was, I mean, who would not? I mean, to be able to endure some of that stuff and not say, "Hey, I'm aware." Just for a little bit. Yeah,
I'm a werewolf.
Like you mentioned,
That's
drawn
me.
and quartered. That's what they did to William Wallace. He was drawn and quartered.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I don't know. Listen, I come from a lineage of people who would rather die than, you know, to be accused of stuff like that. Like, I just found out recently that my great grandmother was Mary Dyer. Okay, and she was a woman who refused to. I think she was a Quaker, actually. She was put to death because they kept giving her. They didn't want to put her to death, but she was like, well, they're like, well, you just have to admit that, you know, you got to renounce this and you got to renounce that. And she was like, well, no, I won't. I stand by my faith. You know, and she was like, you're going to have to hang me. You're just going to have to kill me. And they finally ended up doing that to her. And that's partly why they have the freedom of religion today in the United States. They wrote that in because they felt bad, but they were like, well, got to stand on principle on both sides, I guess. But I don't know, back then, after those torture methods, okay, she was hung. I don't know if I knew that I was going to get put into a metal pig or cow and then burned alive. I just don't know about that, y'all. I'd be a werewolf. I like werewolves, actually. So I'm a werewolf.
Titans is a good movie that showed that torture. The Titans.
God.
That is a good. They use that torture in it. Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking about
that's a good
Remember the Titans. That's different. That's what
Yeah,
I
Remember
don't
the
remember
Titans.
torture devices in that movie.
Well, I mean, you know, that coach was pretty tyrannical at some points in Remember the Titans. So, I mean, I guess you could say he was doing some torture, but it was for the right reasons.
Right.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I do have a question for you, Jessica, and your research on this subject. I pulled up another picture because it's kind of prevalent what we're talking about. I mean, I found the big W, but I want to screen share this. I want to know if this is an image that came up in any of your research. There's this curiosity basis here.
Okay. Oh, we got it. Okay. Let me pull this up.
Is that an image that popped up in any of your research over there in Ireland?
No, I have not seen this image, I don't think.
Okay, that's the image of an Ulfar.
Yeah.
That's what
Ulfar
wore. That's an Ulfar pendant.
Wow, that's
That's why I was
fascinating.
kind of. Yeah. Okay.
No, that's awesome. I like it. Is that made out of metal? Is that like copper?
That was copper. Yeah. See how it's green? That's an actual pendant that Ulfar wore. Mm-hmm. I was just kind
That's
of curious on
awesome.
that.
Okay, was that a windy the W? Excuse me, I started to say it.
Sorry.
Is that the W you're
Yeah,
gonna
that
show?
was
That's
the
a
big
that's a
W.
W, guys. If you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I created that image. That's mine, based off of encounters. Native American lure. That was mine.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah,
That's really
I
cool.
was just kind of curious about that. If that was showed up in any of your because that would tie it to the Ophanar if that was tied to any of your research.
No, I didn't see that, but that's really cool though. I just didn't come across it, I guess. But hey, I've got some more data. I've got one more page of data, so we'll get through this. And so it's still going with the theme of like being on a battleground in a war zone, and that was very prominent for this remote viewing target. And battle scars, I wrote down scars, wounds, blood, war zone, scarred, and I wrote down crazy and stinky. Those were two words that I wrote down as well. And I actually was it was almost like the berserker type of data. You know what I mean? Like I was seeing that kind of thing going on. Um, and I wrote down blood and iron smell, like the smell of like the metallic blood smell. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Rotting flesh. I wrote sulfuric and demonic. I was picking up on something that seemed demonic, actually. And I was definitely picking up the area of like being in a forest or a field with a water source next to it, like some kind of water, an ocean, a river, a lake. And after I picked up on that like demonic data, it was kind of like the berserker. I'm not going to say it was any kind of an entity, but I don't know, because I was picking up on something that was just like somebody who'd lost their mind, kind of that kind of data, very much like a berserker. And I wrote down not pleasant and a bully. That's what I wrote down at the end. And so when I'm looking at that data and I'm analyzing, I find out what this target is. I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, well, I didn't pick up on like werewolves. Okay. Not like actual werewolves. The target was the werewolves of Ossary. Like what's the origin? Like, what is that? And I don't know. If you were to ask me by analyzing just that data, I would say that they weren't actually werewolves. They were actually berserkers. And like fierce, cutthroat Vikings or something. I didn't write down Vikings in here, but I'm just saying like some kind of like just terrible. I don't want to say terrible, fierce warriors that you just don't want to get in their way. That's what I would think.
Well, and the thing is, and this is just my opinion, the Berserkers get a lot more screen time. Let's just put it out. Yeah, people talk about them, and I think a lot of that is because of the word and the word association. But there was, if we're just talking about what they were as far as recorded history, there's not really a whole lot of difference in what they were other than what they called themselves. They both did the exact same thing on the battlefield. They were both as vicious as the other. There's not a nickel's worth of difference in how they operated, how they supposedly obviously went about turning into what they, going into their trance-like state or whatever you want to call it. There's not really much difference in it. I mean, it's just, and I've heard some people even say that, the Ulfhednar were one specific clan and the Berserkers came from a different clan. That, and that's just what one clan identified with versus the other.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that when you start really breaking them down, I think if you start looking into how they trace back, I think the Ulfhednar go directly to Odin. They are tied directly to Odin, whereas the Berserkers were more, they were just warriors that Odin would use. They were not directly his lineage or his, because they're not called the Bears of Odin. They're just the bear warriors.
Remember, I think the Berserkers were tied to Thor, weren't they?
Maybe that's the problem though, Eric. You get so many people that start spreading all this stuff around. You don't really. It's hard to trace down
Right.
exactly. So maybe I've never heard that, but I'm not going to say it's not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is. I mean, I knew from family talk that there's the Bear Clan, Wolf Clan, Raven Clan, Boar Clan, and there was a female one, and I can't remember. They may have been part of the Raven. I can't remember. That's just stuff I've heard from family and friends.
Yeah, and that's
Man.
like I say, just because I've never heard that, or somebody else never heard. Who knows? Because you get on the interwebs here and get on the Googles, and you can find anything that you want to find. You can find it, whether it's right or wrong. You can find somebody who said it.
That's right. Yeah. Actually, a while back, I did a show on the she-wolves of Jülich, and that's out of Germany, though. And that's pretty interesting. It was like a whole band of women werewolves. And, we've actually had reports of female werewolves all over the United States, particularly in Mobile, Alabama. There was the she-wolf of Mobile, Alabama. And that was seen back, I think it was the 80s, somewhere between the 60s and the 80s. Okay. I think it was the 1980s, but maybe it was the 70s. But she was seen just for about a week. Multiple people saw her, and she would walk on 2 legs and on 4 legs. And I think that had something to do. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that had a little black magic involved there. And it was kind of like skinwalker element potentially, is what I think. But nonetheless,
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of black magic tied to werewolves, so I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, but but just look at all the Bigfoot legends around here. Look at how many. I mean, every First Nation tribe had a different name. So it's really hard when you start trying to tie down a specific origin to a specific thing like that. But I've consistently heard, the Ulfhednar be linked directly to Odin. Now, like I said, whether that's true or not, who knows? But that's something that I've read over consistently. Multiple legends about them was they were either the dogs of Odin, the wolves of Odin, Odin's wolves, whatever. That's been a consistent theme across their information sheet, whatever you want to call it.
Oh yeah. Well, I was actually kind of surprised at how prevalent wolves are in the history of Ireland. I had no idea. I have not done a whole lot of research on Ireland, I guess, but okay, even as late as like the 1650s, there were reports of a town that was said to be attacked by packs of like hungry wolves. Now, I know this is like 1650, but even today, we get told when people get attacked and die from weird circumstances, a lot of times we're told that they were attacked by packs of wild dogs. Okay, right? Unspecified animal attacks sometimes, and then a lot of times it's packs of wild dogs. But then people are very suspicious of that, including Amber Miller and Tony Aarons out of East Tennessee. Those 2 cases were mighty suspicious, but that kind of seems like the go-to of like packs of wild dogs. Have either of y'all ever seen a pack of like wild wolves roaming around looking for humans to eat? I mean, not to say it doesn't happen, but how common would that be?
I mean, look how many dog attacks that happen nowadays that they blame on domestic dogs, but there's no actual proof of it actually being domestic dogs that did it.
Well,
exactly.
That's what, and I call the BS card on anytime they pull the unknown canine species out and throw that. I mean, in this day and age, there is no such thing as an unknown canine species.
Well, but that's their go-to, right? It's their go-to when it comes to the DNA sampling. It's all suspicious.
That's
Robbie. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say that's what's so bad about it is it's their go-to, and there's just you cannot. With the information we've got at our fingertips now, there's no such thing as an unknown canine species.
Yeah. Well, you got to think too. Robbie, you and DA pointed something out very prevalent on that FedEx deal that happened not too far from us. Anytime a case like that happens, it's always open. It's therefore you can never get the information on it. They do not
Yeah.
close the case.
The case is left open, so you can't FOIA it. And
Oh,
you know,
that's why they do that.
yeah, and you and I talked about that one time before, Jessica, because that's when you had me explain what FOIA meant. So, for anybody who doesn't know what FOIA is, it's FOIA, which is the Freedom of Information Act. Which anytime once a case has been closed, a police case, you can go to the police department. You can say, "Hey, I want to copy that case file." You can get it. But if the case is still open, it's an open investigation. Investigation's pending. Whatever the case may be, it's not susceptible to FOIA because that was how it was written in, is to protect the integrity of the case. If the case is still working or still ongoing, you don't want somebody that might be the perpetrator to be able to come and get a copy of the case file. And
something that
here's where they're at, so I need to go over here.
Oh yeah, well, I had a fella on the show a while back. His name is Eric with Media Palace on YouTube, and he does a lot of FOIA requests for cryptid sightings, and especially our national parks and state parks. And he gets like 911 calls released to him and stuff like that. And he said he started seeing some of the cases that he was asking for. They were like, "No, we can't give this to you because it's redacted under." I guess they said because of medical. What is it? It's not FOIA. HIPAA. Okay, so HIPAA was kind of a thing. They were redacting things and they were refusing his request because of HIPAA. Now, it's kind of odd, but maybe I felt like they were maybe denying that because maybe the person who, like the state park ranger, let's just say, maybe he had a medical malfunction or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, when they say redacted, obviously that means, and Eric, you know what this is from being in the military, that means the black lines across everything. So when they say it's redacted due to HIPAA, that means they're going to go in and they're going to put black marker over everything they don't want you to see, and then there's no way you're going to know what that was, so you're not going to know if it had anything to do with the HIPAA or not, because if they happen to have somebody who has some kind of something that would restrict that, they can go in and redact whatever they want, and you'll never know because you won't see it. It won't be. I mean, it'll be there, but you won't be able to make it out.
I've heard several times that's above your pay grade.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll tell you something that's above my pay grade is seeing these prints that William's talking about. We got William Nighthawk in the chat. What's up, William? With Nighthawk High Strangest podcast. He's saying that he'd seen a 9-inch by 6-inch canine print. That's really big. Okay. That's not your typical wolf, right? And he said he's found prints that size and bigger. Robbie, I remember you sent me a picture out from where you live of a big old print of a canine print.
Behind my dad's house, it was 5.5 inches wide and just a touch over 6 inches long, I think.
Well, I can't remember. Wasn't that close to the size of prints you guys found in Joe Bold, the 9x6?
It's close, but I just because we did obviously, it was night when we found those pictures, and when we went back next day, the service truck had destroyed them, so we never got a good picture of it. But I want to say, just from memory, the tracks at Joe Ball were a little bit bigger than that, but I mean, not like substantially bigger. I mean, you're talking about like this compared to like this. So, but they seemed like they were bigger at Joe Bald.
Yeah. So I mean,
Joe Bald is a place of high strangeness. Big time high strangeness.
I love Table Rock Lake. I spent most of my life around Shell Knob, Missouri, in a place called Big Bay Campground, up until they closed it. And when they closed it, me and my family was talking about buying it and opening it back up. And Army Corps engineers told us that it was not going to be for sale. They're not going to reopen it. It would cost too much to reopen it. And I said that you're full of crap because you can upgrade it to a modern deal, make your money back in one season easily. Because Big Bay was a huge camping area. People liked it more so because it was more primitive, and that's what we did. We always did primitive camping, and that's what drew people in. but they
Eric, you know this.
absolutely would not sell it.
You know this as well as I do. It would not take anything to go back into Joe Ball and get that place ready to go. It's primitive already. You just go in there and clean it up a little bit, and it'd be ready to go. And you'd make
2 weeks tops.
Yeah, people would they would make money hand over fist during camping season over there.
Do they have a missing persons cluster there? Do you know, Robbie or Eric?
There's missing people cluster. It's part of the Mark Twain National Forest, and there is tons and tons and tons of missing people happen in Mark Twain's. But Table Rock Lake is smack dab right there at Mark Twain National Forest. Big Bay was a part of it. Joe Bald was a part of it.
Combs
and
Ferry.
If you actually look on the map, Combs Ferry, another good one. Huge Mark Twain. Mark Twain is a very massive area. The Mark Twain National Forest is massive. It covers a lot of Missouri if you actually look at it. And not far from it is the Daniel Boone Forest, I believe it's what it is, if memory serves me correctly. Not far from that, which I can't remember if LBL is part of the Daniel Boone or not. I can't remember.
I don't think so. I think it may be.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I don't know. I'm suspicious that there's some sort of underground facility there at Joe Bald. That's what I suspect. That was that. I did do that remote viewing for DA back when that video. He realized there was something in his video.
And the thing is that you said that, and then after you said that is when me, him, and Noah found those big power boxes out there at a primitive campsite. That DA said never could he remember anything out there other than maybe the guard shack at the gate having something that needed to have power. And we found this in the middle of the park, and the box was turned upside down and had been knocked off its axis basically, but there were cables going into the ground that big around, 3-phase cable. So
wow.
If people have, it's big, and I know playing devil's advocate we were like, well, maybe it was just a transformer for a power run. Okay, but why did they need a power run for a cable going through the middle of a park that's been closed and was primitive and never needed anything anyway? I mean, that's just a weird place to put a power box for an underground cable run.
I don't know a whole lot about power and power boxes, and I never pay attention to them until the power goes out. And then I'm like, all right, somebody keep an eye on that and get the power company out here. Okay.
Well, and the last time that we went up there, when Doc was with us, we went and tried to find that box again. We couldn't find it. So I mean that could mean anything. Some homeless crackhead could have come in and picked it up and took it and used it for a house somewhere, for all we know. But
maybe
I have only been to that place one time and didn't have activity. And every other time I've been in that place, it's been like it was exactly like Georgia was that night when we were out there, and everything just went quiet. But it was that way the entire time. We stepped out of the car and it was dead quiet. And it's just that I'm telling you, Eric can back me up on this. That place is it's got a different feel to it.
Dude, Table Rock period has a very ominous feel to it. And there's a lot of story behind Table Rock Lake. A lot of it, because that's a man-made lake. That was made by the Army Corps of Engineers. There is 2 or 3 towns in the bottom of that. I can tell you now they didn't move all the cemeteries. I can tell you for a fact they didn't move all the cemeteries.
And Table Rock is a deep lake too.
Shell Knob, the original Shell Knob is under Table Rock Lake.
That's why I think that Lake Lanier, I don't mean to interrupt you, I'm sorry. Lake Lanier in Georgia is super haunted, they say. And of course, we found some missing bodies in there, doing some remote viewing and missing people and stuff.
That's something that we touched on, is a lot of these places like that have cryptid activity or supernatural activity or man-made lakes. Lake Lanier in Georgia, Table Rock in Missouri.
Lake Norris in Tennessee has got an ancient Egyptian settlement, a temple underneath it.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
But these man-made lakes are that way, and I don't know what it is about it, but
I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but I see William Nighthawk's in here, and I just remembered Flat Rock's in here too. What's up, Flat Rock? He just said happy birthday to William. Happy birthday, William Nighthawk. It's your birthday today.
William.
Yes, happy birthday from the whole crew over
Cry
here.
if you want to. Cry if
Yes.
you want to.
He's about to leave, so we gotta say happy birthday before he goes. So, I bet you had a big day today. And hey, Flat Rock, I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah, that's as soon as I've got my dive gear. As soon as I get a chance, I've never dived freshwater. I've always dived oceans, but I want to dive table rock, and I've got a GoPro that I could take underwater with me that records sound and audio even underwater. And I'm wanting to do that as one of my investigations because I'm curious what's in there. But that's something to be great on a lot of these man-made lakes. We're running into that to see if there's something we're running into.
And that's I was headed that way. Sonia just said we got a lake here in South Carolina, Joe Cassie, man-made lake, all kinds of haunted. There's a town underneath it. Now, the official story goes is they put that town down there for divers. The real story is it was a flooded town, just like you're talking about.
For divers.
Yeah. My
That's
uncle was a certified dive instructor, and he used to go up to Joe Cassie, up around the gorge and around the dam, and that's where he would teach his classes. And he said my uncle's 6'5", and probably at the time he was 325-ish. He was not far out of college, and he was a center for Presbyterian College here. So college center, do the math, he wasn't a small guy.
Yeah.
So he was taking people up there, and he decided he was not going to take people up there when he looked down and saw multiple catfish down there bigger than him.
Oh,
Now,
don't go noodling.
Yeah, especially when the catfish can noodle you.
Yeah.
But he was telling a guy about that, and the guy was like, "Yeah, that's pretty scary, but that ain't nothing to seeing the ghost swimming in and out of the houses down there." And my uncle's like, "Huh?"
Yep.
He said, "Oh yeah, I've taken people down there because it was one of his dive instructor buddies." He said, "I've taken people down there for night dives for their night rescue certifications and all that stuff, and seen things floating in and out of the windows and stuff down there." I'm like,
Oh God!
"Oh, would you look at the time?
That's like my worst night. That's a nightmare scenario right down there.
It's half past time to get the hell out of here."
Oh my God! I mean, imagine all the cemeteries down there. With the caskets and stuff.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, you're gonna have to change your dive gear.
I was about to say, that's a brown dive gear moment.
I'll pass on that one.
I'm glad my skin suit's black.
That brown cloud floating around there. Oh, don't worry about that.
I saw a video today actually of a giant catfish that looked like one of those whales. It was a whale shark, like they have at the Georgia Aquarium. It was bigger than the boat that those people were in. It was weird. I've
actually been at Shellwater Bay. I've been on top of the hill. My boat's been in the water at our campsite because Shellwater Bay. No, I'm sorry. I'm thinking Australia. Sorry. At Big Bay. Sorry, I had Australia in my head for a second. At Big Bay, our campsite was up top, and our campsite went all the way down to the beach at the lake. And my boat was sitting there in that cove there at the lake, and I've seen shadows of fish from up top that was bigger than my 14-foot John boat.
Jeez. Oh my God. Yeah.
I picked them up on my fish scanner that blacked out my fish scanner. They were so big. They blacked them out.
God. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yes. There's nothing worse than like doing all this research and doing these shows on these lake cryptids and lake monsters, and then going for a fun weekend at the lake down in Alabama. My sister's got a place on the lake, and we go out there and we jump off the boat and go swimming, and it's not fun. When you start thinking about all the things, like something touches you or nips at your feet or your leg, I just think about Japanese kappas pulling me down under, or some kind of, the Ultima Haha or something, some kind of weird lake monsters. We have no idea what's under us, y'all. I'm sorry. When you're out in those lakes, you have no clue what's under there. And so many people actually go missing and drown in Lake Lanier and Lake Altoona in Georgia, because there are these towns down there. There's church steeples, there's trees, there's all sorts of things there's houses down there. And so when people dive into the lake head first, sometimes they dive right into a tree and they get caught in it. They sink. They're never seen again. Some bodies, I don't know if they've ever recovered some of the bodies out of there. So be careful, y'all. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
And also watch out for dogmen around these areas. Harold Denton, it's either Daryl or Harold is in here, and said that dogmen have been spotted around Lake Norris in Tennessee as well. And not only are these man-made lakes, the one that's in Alabama that I go to, I believe that's a man-made lake. And my cousin's been accosted by Bigfoot out there before. So I don't know if it's the land. I am 100% positive that they do cover up our history by putting those man-made lakes in there. And I think that it's a lot of history. Like I'd mentioned that ancient Egyptian temple under Lake Norris. I mean, what if there's some sort of a connection to like Anubis and dogmen, and they're sitting there protecting that sacred land?
I think they are. I mean, look at it this way: how many times do you hear stories of dogmen around cemeteries or burial sites or things like that? What was Anubis and Wetwawet? What were the two things they were known for? One was the guardian of the underworld, and one was the guardian of the dead. And Wetwawet was pretty much a werewolf, and Anubis was a jackal-headed man that was basically, the connection points are there. It don't really take a lot to tie them up and bring them together.
Yes, that's right. I think there's connections. Okay, I've been making these connections for a minute when it comes to the ancient Egyptian settlement down there. I mean, there's so much of our history that's been covered up.
Well,
and when people were asked, like, why are these lakes so haunted? Well, look what they're covering. Look what they're covering up.
Well, look, they're just now saying or acknowledging that the Heavener stone is, of Viking origin. That's in the middle of Oklahoma.
I've never heard of that. What is that stone? No, tell me about it.
Is a Viking rune stone that was found unearthed in an archaeological dig in the middle of Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm. They just recently found a Viking ship in the Mississippi River there in Tennessee. That predates most everything else they found that's Viking related.
No way.
This goes. DA and Doc and I have talked about this multiple times about soft disclosures and things like that. They just now started talking about the Heavener stone a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
5-6 years ago, however long it was, they had that movie called Pathfinder, where it talked about Vikings going up and meeting with the Indians. But that was way back here, and then all of a sudden, later on, a little bit later on, they start talking about this. Whenever when it first came out, everybody's like, "Oh, yeah, that's fantasy. That they never got that far." And then a couple years later, we found a Viking runestone in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm. They found them, like I said earlier, they found it from one side of this continent to the other, and it predates any European type stuff. We have proof of Chinese and Japanese here way before any, Christopher Columbus was a twinkle in his daddy's eye. I mean, this stuff predates all that.
Oh yeah, I always say that our history is not what we're taught. I mean, even before Columbus came, there was a Welsh prince who came up through Alabama and basically, I'm not gonna say discovered the New World over here, but by some accounts he did. And he encountered the moon-eyed people, y'all. Okay, and his on his crest was a dragon. And guess what? I have encountered a potential petrified dragon in Alabama too. So go figure. And don't get me started on the Tartarian Empire, okay, and all that was here. So yeah. It's wow. That's really cool to know that about that Viking stone. Wow. I mean, I've heard about the swords and all the different, artifacts that have been found, but I had not heard about that.
Yeah, and DA didn't know this when he wrote the book, but the first Wild Hunt book, Odin's Call, he ended up writing where it was at was only like 20 miles from where the Tubbies had their big fight, which is really only just a little ways away from where they found the Heavener stone.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's all there, and that begs the question: is this why these werewolf encounters are coming over? I mean, look how much of the Vikings have covered this world. I mean, is that where they come from? I know, but I mean, it's probably helped it, you know. Because I mean, look at all these cultures. Every single culture has a story about either a dog man or a werewolf. Every single, and a lot of them both. I mean, Hindus talk about a tribe of dog-headed people that are dog-shaped 24/7. They live up in the mountains. They come down every now and then and trade furs and other stuff with the locals, and then go right back up. This stuff is all over the world, and it's throughout history.
It is. Well, maybe the Vikings brought the werewolves with them over here. Maybe that's partly how. Maybe they were descended from that one guy, right? What was his name? Fáelad. That was his last name. Laignech Fáelad was his name, and I'm sure I'm pronouncing that completely wrong. But they say that all of the werewolves there were descended from him. Even some of the kings. Okay, royalty was descended from this guy, and he was a werewolf warrior. They said.
Most historians say, and here again, choose whether you want to believe this because it comes from historians. But most historians say that the very first case of lycanthropy was King Lycan or Lycan, or however you want to pronounce it. I know I'm redneck. I say King Lycan.
It's Lycan. That's what I say.
You know that the basic story of that is they had Zeus over for supper, and the king thought he was smarter than the god, and he was gonna show off in front of his cronies, and he supposedly cooked his younger son. I've heard two different versions. One was he cooked his younger son, and another one was it was just human meat, and was going to try to trick Zeus into eating human flesh. And of course, Zeus being Zeus was like, "Nah, I know that's human." And then he cursed him and his other sons for the rest of their days to walk during the night, I believe how it was originally said, as the beasts. And that was supposedly the first lycanthrope that was to ever walk the face of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, interesting history there. I did not know that. And that's where I'm putting up pictures of werewolves up here.
I know, I'm a werewolf nerd. I can't help it.
I love it. That's why I like having y'all here. Talk about this. Caleb. Caleb says Cheyennes knew the Vikings, and you know we've also I've talked about the Cheyenne dogmen here on the channel, and that's very similar. What they did was very similar to what we're talking about with the men that would put on the pelts and get into that beast mode and go fight. Very interesting stuff. But they knew the Vikings. I'm sure there was a lot of people that knew the Vikings, and that's just part of our history that's been left out over here for whatever reason. It's kind of
history is written by the victor, the most flamboyant speaker. That's how history.
Right.
Look at some of the most the First Nation tribes who were some of the most vicious fighters. The Apache, for example.
Cherokee.
Look at the Apache. Look at how the Apache wore their hair. They painted their faces and all that kind of stuff. Who else did that kind of stuff?
Yep. A lot of people in history.
That's true. Good point. Yeah, a lot of people did. Hey, my buddy Mark. I don't know. I don't see him in the chat tonight. But Cryptidville, he saw a dog man with paint smeared down his face. A dog man. Up in Kentucky. So that's interesting. It's not just the people doing the war paint. It's cryptids as well, or half human, half dogs, whatever they are. Okay, and Sovereign says that Anubis is worshipped by the demonic elites. Oh my gosh, I like Anubis myself. I'm not demonic.
I didn't
not bleed either. But yeah, they may be. I don't know.
I've always been a wet wet guy.
You've always been a what?
I've always been a wet guy because he's a wolf.
Oh yeah,
that's Anubis.
I like Anubis. He's the the god of the underworld, right? Like he's there to
Yep.
to kind of guide people
Anubis
into
is-
the underworld.
Anubis is the god of the underworld. Wet. His brother is the protector of the dead, and he's the one that's supposed to shepherd the dead into the
Yeah.
underworld. But he was Anubis's brother.
Oh wow, that's wild. I mean, and it would make sense that would be something. If we have more ancient, imagine this. What if we do have way more ancient Egyptian settlements all over the United States? What is now the United States? We do have all these, burial mounds, these earthen mounds all over the place, and we've always been told that some of these, just like the Egyptian pyramids, we were told those were for a long time. I think in our textbooks, we're told that those were tombs of the elite, right, of the pharaohs and stuff. They're not at all. That's not what they were used for at all. I mean, maybe some of them were, but that wasn't true. And what about the mounds and stuff too? I mean, what was there something more to them?
Look at how stuff changes from year to year, whatever. I mean, what did we know about sharks 20 years ago when Jaws came out? Richard Dreyfuss didn't make that up. He got that from some famous shark researchers. All they know how to do is eat, swim, and make little sharks. Well, now look at what we know about it. They're nothing like that. How much has changed about that we know about a T-Rex just from the Jurassic Park time? When Jurassic Park come out, Jack Horner had everybody convinced that T-Rexes were nothing but scavengers. Now it's, we talked about this Sunday night, Eric. Now It's been proven that they were nothing more or nothing less than some of the best predators that ever walked the face of the earth. Things change. It doesn't matter what we say now. 10, 15 years from now, somebody's going to be saying something different. I mean, look, how many times has coffee been bad or good in just our lifetime? Oh, coffee's bad for you. Oh, you need to drink coffee every day. Oh, coffee will kill you. No, you need to drink coffee. I mean, eggs, bacon,
nicotine, cholesterol, all that stuff. Everything is. I feel like we've just been lied to for a long time.
It depends on who's in charge as to what's good for you and what's bad for you.
Well, whoever's been in charge sucks.
Yeah, whoever's the most flamboyant makes up science, history, and health.
The squeaky wheel, man, the loud ones.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's why we have to think for ourselves. Okay, we got to start thinking for ourselves, and that's why so many kids are getting homeschooled these days and stuff too, I guess. But yeah, that's I've done several shows where I've focused on like the Indian burial mounds and dogmen being sighted there, and the Bigfoots. And I did talk with like William Nighthawk, who's just here, whose birthday it is. We talked about that, and he's talked about how the lands are sacred and they're either cursed or blessed, however you look at it, and whatever your perception of it is. And so I think that does account for a lot of these dogman sightings that we're seeing. I think they're not only guarding the Native American burial areas and sacred lands. I think that they're guarding some of the ancient Egyptian sites. That's what I think.
Well, you got to stop and think. I mean, a lot of so your smaller mounds you're going to find, that's going to be the trash pile for the native people. They had to have a place to put their trash. You'll find a lot of artifacts in them smaller mounds. Your bigger ones, not only have they been known to cover up temples, there's been giant remains found in them things. There's been other stuff like that too is found in those mounds. So, seeing dogmen around them, giants were here for a long time. Native American people will tell you that these dogmen were known as one of the elder big brothers, the first beings. Makes sense if they're tied together. They were together for so long.
And if we had Vikings here too, and they brought werewolves, the whole werewolf tradition over here, and maybe they had dogmen too. Who knows? I can tell you with a lot of that like remote viewing data that I get when I've been tasked with targets that involve giants, like the red-headed giants or the giant of Kandahar. A lot of times in my data it says Norse. I'm thinking I'm looking at Vikings, and I'll actually write that in the data. I'm like Viking, Norse, or some kind of like Viking ancestry or something is in the data for those types of targets a lot of times. So, and we have red-headed giants in Lovelock Cave. They've been found.
Lovelock
stories
Cave.
of them all over the place.
They've been found all over Missouri. There's been giant remains found all over Missouri. Temples or not temples, pyramids. I'm sorry, I was calling them temples earlier. I meant pyramids. Pyramids were found all over Missouri. Giant mounds have been found all over Missouri. I mean, the Ozark Mountains is the oldest mountain ranges. I can't remember if it's the U.S. or the world. They've just been eroded down through time. And, that's why I talk about the magic of the Ozark Mountains. There's a lot of magic here. There's a lot of history tied to the Ozark Mountains. So finding this stuff here in the Ozarks is not going to be uncommon. Anything from pyramids to giant remains or supernatural, paranormal, cryptid, because there's a lot of history. And where you find a lot of history, a lot of old history, you find a lot more connectivity.
Yeah, the Appalachians too. The Appalachians are really old, and so we talk about magic. That's where Robbie and I were when we got surrounded by something.
Yep,
2
we
years
were
in
in
a
the
row.
Appalachians.
The Appalachian. You got to put the right accent on the right syllable.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
You go to the Appalachian Mountains? You mean
Appalachian.
the Appalachian Mountains? Yeah, them too.
Oh my gosh, that sounds definitely like something I would say, but I know Appalachians, and I still get people still tell me I pronounce it wrong. I say Appalachians, and then people are like, no, it's Appalachian or something. I don't know.
That's how
I slaughter everything I say, y'all.
It depends on what part of the South you're standing in.
Exactly. Well, the Appalachians go all the way up into Canada, basically, all the way through New York. So everybody's going to pronounce it differently.
Yep.
Okay. I say it the way I say it in my part of Georgia. Okay. So there's no wrong answers here.
In New York.
Yeah. There's no wrong answers. This is interesting too, because Christopher says, AKA Machete. Okay. You can tell wherever the French went, so did the werewolf. That's interesting too, because that is something that I want to say. I'm thinking of like voodoo traditions, right? Like voodoo and black magic. That produces werewolves as well, right? And we hear about the Rougarou down in New Orleans.
The Rougarou.
And down in the swamps down there in the bayou.
That Rougarou gonna get you.
Yeah, the Loup-garou and the Rougarou are down there.
Loup-garou is French for werewolf, and a lot of people say that's just that Rougarou is just the Cajun pronunciation of that, but the Cajuns mix things up. I got family that are Cajun, so I can talk about a Cajun because I kind of are one. But they love mixing stuff up. Just eat some of their food. I mean, am I right?
Good eat, I tell.
They got good eating, but it mixed up. I tell you what, it mixed up.
Man,
but some people say that Rougarou was just, pardon my French, a bastardization of Loup-garou. But if you really start looking into it, it's because a Rougarou is not necessarily it can be anything. It can have an alligator head. It can have it can have a possum head. I mean, but 9 times out of 10 it takes on the form of wolf. But there are so many things about it. It's actually a really cool legend to get into and look at, because there's people say that how you keep it from coming in your house is you put 13 coins on the ground because it can't count past 12, and it will stay outside because it can't go in your door if it sees the loose change down there. So you put 13 coins down there because it can't count past 12. So it'll get to 12 and it'll have to start over, and it'll stay out there till almost time for it to run back into the swamp. And that's how you keep the Rougarou out of your house. I've got family that will ask that word because they believe that if you say it's kind of like the W and the SW, that's what that is for Cajuns and Creoles. You don't say it because if you say it, it'll either manifest or it'll possess you and turn you into one.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
I'm trying to think of another.
I was gonna mention this comment right here from Christopher. That's actually how I got into according to my family line. Okay, I was part of the Viking crew that married into the French family, apparently. And so just watch the series Vikings. It shows you the Vikings married into French royalty.
You're not helping your case, just
I know, right? I know. I think it was Viking, but he married into the. I know. He's not.
Well,
We all
The
have
one-
generational curse breakers, right? It just took a while.
Yeah.
My family line.
Yeah, the one that we know as Rollo the Betrayer is he married into the
Man.
French royal bloodline and became French royalty.
Well, that's so you need to quit saying that, Eric. I'm gonna come at you like a spider monkey here in a minute.
I'm gonna come at you like a spider, bro.
I'm going to come at you like I'm all hopped up on Mountain Dew over here. Okay.
Oh man, oh this is great.
I know. Oh man, of course we would quote Talladega Nights with us here all together. We're not.
You ain't
Yes,
first, you're last.
it's classy. Classy. I love it. That's actually my favorite movie. Okay, if anybody's ever wondering that's one of my very favorite movies right there, because of the bracing. Okay. And yes, Sonia says Robbie has knowledge on werewolves. Yes, both of my fellas here tonight have knowledge on werewolves. I love it.
They're an interesting thing. How can you not? People stop realizing. Look at one point in time in your life. I just never grew out of the damn phase, but at one point in your life, everybody's been fascinated with werewolves at one point in time, or vampires. Like at one point, we played games being these things. You know, I just never grew up. I like them.
Oh man, there are a lot of vampires down in New Orleans as well. We hear a lot about vampires. My buddy Matt. Okay. Oh, and this actually has some relevance to what we're talking about tonight, because my buddy Matt brought to the Georgia Bigfoot conference a couple weeks ago. We were both speaking there. He had a bottled vampire, a real vampire in a bottle. And I told him, I was like, don't touch it. Don't give that to my child. Stay away. Put it in your truck and get out of here. And because it's actually the essence of a vampire. Is what they say. And so when I was researching this today, when I was researching these werewolves of Ossary, they were talking about, one of the theories was like, well, they didn't actually turn into, it wasn't people who turned into werewolves. It was like they went out during their dream state, like in the astral, and went and attacked people and things like that. And I know it's kind of a whole other level. It's almost interdimensional, right? So it's kind of weird, but that was one of the theories. They didn't actually turn in the 3-dimensional reality that we live in. It was during their dream state they would go and attack people.
That's a lot like a popular movie we've got.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting you say that, because if you study the Draugr, which is in Norse mythology, Draugr is known as a zombie or a vampire. They've been known to enter the dreams of the living and torment them. And that's your Draugrs.
But sounds an awful lot like a very, very popular horror movie.
Does it?
Mm-hmm.
What,
Freddy
Nightmare
Krueger.
on Elm Street?
Mm-hmm. Freddy Krueger was a dream demon, but
dream demon.
What did he feed on? Because
Loosh. Basically Loosh.
Think when you fast forward to Freddy versus Jason, he didn't have the power to kill because people had forgotten him and were not scared of him anymore. He fed on their fear. So he was a vampire.
Loosh.
If you break it down to that brass tacks, Freddy fed on the fear of the children. Because if you took his fear away, because think about it in the first movie, when that's how Nancy beat him at the end of the first movie. She said, "I'm not scared of you," and he lost his power over her.
Yep.
Okay, well then let's apply that to these werewolves of Ossary, and whether they were actual werewolves, of shapeshifters, of men who turned into actual hairy werewolves with the fangs and everything, or were they feeding off? I mean, I know they were kind of, barbaric and stuff. They were out for blood, and they even smeared blood all over them and drank the blood of their victims and stuff. But what drove them? Could it have been the fear and that loosh? You know what I mean? Like they definitely were putting that into the collective consciousness everywhere they went. People didn't want to mess with them.
Like Urso Super Soul. Sorry if I butchered that, but the Strigoi, that was a hybrid of a vampire and a werewolf.
Yep.
And it was bat news.
Oh yeah, that's
very
like
bad news.
That's like on the Underworld, right? Like that movie, The Underworld, like where they had
but they screwed that up so bad. They screwed that up so bad.
He was like a hybrid, right?
But trust me, there is something coming very soon, and I ain't talking about mine. There's something coming very soon that's going to do it justice.
Is it a book? Is that your book?
Not
Yeah.
mine.
Not yours?
Not
No,
by a better writer than I.
Oh, wow.
There's gonna be
Yeah.
some good. There's gonna be some good stuff in the upcoming Lakeview, man. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, that's DA's book, right?
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, you know, I
Well,
feel
I
like Lush is still fed off on, or that's what's feeding a lot of these entities today, demonic entities and stuff, is that Lush. And that's why they put these big old stadiums on top of these ley lines at these places of power where it's generating all that energy. And I don't know, they're powering up, I guess, these,
Well, you know,
these entities out there, right?
We looked into it and we found out that LBL has 3 ley lines that run through it.
Mhm.
Of course it does.
Yeah.
Of course it would.
You
I've got a ley line map right here if you want to see it.
Yeah. You
I
gotta
have
stop
a
and think,
ley
too.
line
We
map.
and I covered this many times. You know, evil things take take the shape of whatever fear you have because they feed off your fear.
You
So,
know,
I mean, that fits.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
sorry, no, you're right.
Wow.
No, I was just gonna say that it's funny that you say that because people have asked, and I give my opinion about the difference between a dogman and a werewolf. And
Yeah.
if you listen to people talk, a lot of people like take DA's dogman encounter. You know, he said it was leaning up against a tree. And it was just looking around. It saw him and saw he was looking, and it was like an animal. It turned and ran. But then you hear other people talk about werewolf encounters where they use the terms demonic, hellhound, all this stuff. I have said for I can't tell you how long I've had this theory that there are demons in this world, and there are demons that are trying. They're trying to claim human souls, and they just like Freddy Krueger. They feed on your fear, and I've said time and time again that if you're scared of a werewolf, if that's your biggest fear, then that's what's going to appear in front of you. It may not be a true dogman or a true werewolf like we were talking about tonight, but think about how many descriptions you've heard people say that. You've had other people talk about it where they was, oh, well, you know, it scared me, but it didn't. Or it was just an animal that ran off like DA's. But then you talk about the ones that are like, it was demonic. It was hellish. It was a hellhound. It was, you know, it was straight from hell. I think when you start looking at, I think those are ones that was true demonic possession or demonic appearances, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Well, and that's why we always say there's a difference between red glowing eyes and red reflective eyes. Most of your predators have a red reflective eye to them when the light shines them versus an actual red glowing eye. And the red glowing eyes is very, very much tied to demonic stuff. But when you're in that state of fear and adrenaline and stuff like that, you're not going to stop and go, hey, wait, take 10 for a second. You got red glowing eyes or you got red reflective eyes? You're just not going to do that, man. Your fear's going to do nothing. You're going to see what you're going to see. And your mind's going to make it up. That's just how it works.
You know, Robbie, when Greg House was on the show with us that night, he was talking about the Dogman report that was out of the area where he lives, not too far from where I did some Dogman investigating over near Bankhead Forest in Alabama. And he said there was a report out of there of Dogman with blue eyes, right? Blue glowing eyes. Do you remember that?
I think he said blue.
He said blue glowing eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was the blue eye. It wasn't reflective. It was like eye glow or something. I don't think it was just like eye shine. So that's interesting. I mean, we hear about all these different colors. I personally don't believe, this is my opinion, I don't believe that everything with red eyes is demonic. You know what I mean? I never have. But some people do. It's associated with that. So I don't know. I like to keep an open mind. Okay. And Nomi says ley lines, the former electromagnetic grid of the Nephilim world empire. Oh my gosh. There's something to the ley lines. Absolutely. 100%. And I think there's actually a connection between the burial mounds, like what we call the Indian burial mounds. Some people get offended by that term now, but I've always called them. Okay. And all these burial mounds, and I think there's a connection to them. Not only are there cryptids there, I have a friend who was going around plotting out all the, like, I guess I don't want to say new ley lines, but plotting out basically ley lines, traveling all over the South, going from burial mounds to burial mounds, and plotting out the GPS coordinates and stuff. I don't know what she was doing. It was something for her job. Okay. And so there's something to it, y'all. That's all I'm going to say. And, she was trying to kind of get an idea of where I do some of my cryptid research and stuff too, because it all runs on those ley lines, and that's how she was able to kind of plot some more of these ley lines out. And by us kind of working together on some of these high strangeness hotspots, okay, because that's where these, and they are connected to some of these burial mounds. And and some of these burial mounds are in national parks too and stuff. I mean, we have a bunch of big burial mounds in Georgia. There's one up near Unicoi, or in Helen, Georgia. There's one, they call it the Romeo and Juliet mound, I think. We've got them in Mulgee. We've got the Etowah Indian mounds. South Carolina's got them.
You look at a lot of your temples, your pyramids, your holy places. They're on these, the natural magnetic lines of the earth, the energy lines, what follows them, ley lines. It's all connected to energy of Mother Earth. I mean, it's why they put things in them places.
Oh yeah. Sovereign Cosmic Wildman, what's up? He says, Freddy Krueger, there actually is a demonic off-world corporation called Krueger. There is a company called Krueger. I know that. That's wild. Yeah. Krueger, I would have never thought when I was a kid, like any of these movies could have been real, y'all. Okay. Like Freddy Krueger was one of the worst, actually. When I was in 6th grade, I remember I dressed up like one of those little girls that jumped the rope, that was jumping rope and singing 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you.
Coming for you.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, so this is let me do a little commercial break, because I got to tell y'all something funny. You wonder why I'm so weird. Okay, I mean, y'all never have to wonder why I'm weird. Y'all just know I'm weird. But when I was in 6th grade, we had a fall festival every year, a Halloween festival, and my class, we were in 6th grade in elementary school, so we got to do the haunted house. And so my mom was kind of in charge of it. So my mom's in the chat, y'all. I'm not gonna say who she is. She's in the chat though, and my mom she was like, well, if we're going to do this haunted house, we're going to do it up right. So all my class, we all got together. We all decided what we were going to do. One guy was like the vampire. Some of us were like Freddy Krueger girls, and we were going to jump rope and sing and be all creepy. And we had mummies, we had zombies, we had everything in this house out at the baseball field. It was like the concession stand is what we got to make the haunted house out of. And it was a production, and my mom went to a butcher place, like a place where they slaughter pigs. We were in 6th grade in elementary school. My mom went and got 2 hog heads. And like pig's blood. We had all that. So it was so weird, y'all. It was crazy. Looking back on that, I'm like, today they would not allow that. I am positive my son's school would not allow for fresh pig heads to be sitting on hay bales outside of at the fall festival. They just wouldn't. But we did it up right, y'all. We had that was a real haunted house. We scared the crap out of people in that haunted house, man.
There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that we did when we were kids that would not be allowed nowadays.
Oh my God. No, absolutely not. That would, you can't even say the word GUN at my son's school, or you get like kicked out of school and all that kind of stuff. It's just crazy, y'all. Yeah. It's wild. So yeah, we did some stuff.
When I started coaching, I was mortified to know that we couldn't call them what they used to call them when you run up and down the basketball court and touch all the hash marks and all the way. You can't call them those anymore.
I don't even know what that is. We'll have to talk after the show.
The S words.
Oh, okay. Man, we just there's the times have changed. You know what I mean? The times have definitely changed. But it's because of who's in charge. What did we say earlier about the victors are the flamboyant ones?
Yeah.
Right? Is that what you said? Flamboyant? So probably not. I don't know if that's the term I'm looking for, but yeah. People that
you
get
got to think, man.
in charge. They make the
people
rules.
of history and science don't want to
I
give
get
up
it,
their
Daryl.
knowledge.
Harold, thank you.
That's how they have their power. Their power comes from, hey, I discovered this. And if they're proven wrong, they don't want to give it up because they lose their power.
That's right. I see. Harold didn't put it in the chat. I see it. Okay, I know. It's called self-deletion on YouTube now. God. It's so weird how we have to have alternate phrases for everything. It's so weird, y'all.
We don't have to.
Anyways, we don't have to. It's like we police ourselves, though, kind of. It's almost like a weird societal experiment, isn't it? Like I've gotten to where I don't censor myself as much as I did for a second because I'm like, well, who's in charge of censor? Who even came up with this stuff? Who says we can't say these words? And so I say them every now and then just to be a rebel. And my numbers hadn't gotten affected by it, so I'm okay.
Well,
I think it's all bullcrap.
I'm sorry, but some of these people would not have made it growing up when we did.
No, probably not. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, my son. That's why I get calls from my son's teacher all the time, probably because I'm raising him to be like me. Okay, so
yeah, I may not have been on the receiving end of a couple of them phone calls from my kids. Your daughter beat up this kid in school. Who threw the first punch? The other kid. Good job, kid. You stood your ground.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, it happens. You know, I am raising a free thinking child. He's a free thinker. Okay, that's the best way to describe it right there. It's a free thinker. And yes, if it gets him in trouble, I'm prepared to get more phone calls. At least one of his teachers and I are friends. And the other ones, not so much, but it's okay. It's okay. We need children like that in our society. Okay. Because y'all know
world ain't full of sunshines and rainbows. What was that
it's
movie?
Not.
Oh my God.
It's not. And we also have, I take my kid out in the field sometimes. We go out, we go bigfooting pretty often, and I take him along with me. Not to the scary places that are real dangerous. I don't take him there. Okay, but Robbie, my son was with us that one night where that was actually the scariest night. We weren't expecting that when we got surrounded by something out in the field that night, and my son was there, and we pretty much we got out of there quick, because he was there.
Yeah.
But it's making them tough. Okay, I guess.
Absolutely, Harold. I missed that game.
Yeah. Let's see. What does Harold say?
Smear the.
Oh no!
Oh yeah.
I love that game.
No, I am not pulling that up, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm not pulling that up. Oh my God!
I remember teaching my kids that game. They're like, "Dad, that's mean." I said, "Well, that's what it's called."
Okay. Well, I never played that one. Okay, never played that one.
Absolutely, that game made us tougher.
Oh man,
yes.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
everything made us tougher. Okay, I think yes. Well, lucky for society, some of us are raising really tough kids still. Okay, and we're gonna get back to all that being tough and everything, and because we're gonna have to be. Listen, if we got all these cryptids running around, and werewolves and dogmen and all that stuff, we need the next generation of dogman hunters.
I've said it time and time again. We don't have the people like we used to have with Davy Crockett and Daniel Boone and Teddy Roosevelt and those people that went in and pushed these things back into the national parks. Now we've had the Black Plague of the 21st century, and they've come back out. We don't have the people that are going to go push those things. I'm sorry, we don't. I mean, are there still people like that? Yeah, but not in the numbers that they used to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just had a brain fart.
Caleb said the best Marines come from the wild kids. Yeah. My son, actually, fun fact, my son is determined to be a Marine. I think he was born a Marine. He must be reincarnated or something, because he is determined.
Article 15.
Yeah. Yeah, so they come from the wild kids. My kid's a little bit wild. He's a little wild. And,
Kendall knows what I'm talking about.
yeah. Oh my gosh, man. Well, this has been a really, really awesome, fun show tonight. I mean, I know it's a school night. So speaking of kids, I just remembered I got one. I got a kid. So
Not for me.
you don't you oh yeah, that's right. You're not working at the school anymore, are you? You back on
No,
the
I'm at school.
You're at school still?
Tomorrow's Good Friday.
Yep.
Wait,
We ain't got no
do
school
we-
tomorrow here either.
maybe we Ben, do you
You
have
might
school?
want to check, Jessica. It's Good Friday tomorrow.
Did
You might want to
did
check.
I miss something? We
You might
usually
have
have
missed the
school on
memo.
Fridays. I
Good
might have missed the
Friday.
memo.
The Friday before Easter is tomorrow.
We usually have school.
It's Easter
I
break.
thought.
Yep.
Okay, well I'll double check. Well, we just got off spring break too, so
So did we.
as far as I know, he has school tomorrow.
You might want to check on that. You might have missed the memo on that
I'm
one.
taking him to school. Y'all know, I will admit, when he was in like second grade or kindergarten, I did drive him to school one day when he didn't have school, and I didn't know. I just didn't get the memo. So
I
it was
went to work
teacher
on
work
a
days.
holiday, not realizing I've been off for like 5 days. And then I was like, oh, boss, like, all right, see you Monday morning. So I'm like, okay. So I didn't think about it, drove to work. Where the hell is everybody at? Did I miss something here? And I'm calling my boss up going, hey, what, did I miss something? He goes, dude, it's a holiday. I went, what holiday? I said, oh, crap.
Oh my God. I just asked my son, I was like, do you have school tomorrow? He was like, yeah, I got school. So I don't know. I will double check though. Listen, I don't know. I don't remember ever getting that Friday off. But the Easter Bunny is coming to see my kid. Hopefully he's been good enough to have the Easter Bunny show up on Sunday. So yeah, we're definitely celebrating Easter. We have a lot of Easter egg hunting to do this weekend. And yeah, we got a full weekend ahead. So yeah, well, this has been awesome, y'all. I mean, I guess to kind of wrap it up tonight, we can wrap it up a little bit. Talking about the Wolfwalkers. Yeah, or the Werewolves of Ossory. I think that my takeaway for tonight is like, well, we've got all this hidden history here in the United States. We got these Viking settlements here. We've got all these Egyptian settlements here. We really don't know the whole history of like how Dogman got here or the werewolf phenomenon or whatever. Maybe it's always been here, but it could have come with those people that were here before, and maybe they're sitting here guarding these lands from the people who settled here, that it's kind of been hidden from us in our history books. So, and I also am taking away the idea of the people who wrote our history are flamboyant. Eric, that's funny. That is, oh man, I like that. I don't know. Do you guys have any final thoughts on our Irish werewolves tonight?
Man, just more to look into. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to tie on that. With the history that we know of these things, I don't know if we can ever get to the bottom of it. I mean, there's so many possibilities, but your data is pretty spot on.
Well, there's a whole bunch of war data, bunch of blood and hurting and unaliving and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I wasn't even thinking about all the torture devices they used back then too, and the witch trials, the werewolf trials that were going on back then. I mean, gosh, it was a pretty brutal time to be alive, I would think. So,
That was.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, here's a final question for both of y'all. Would you, if you were met with knowing that you had torture coming like that, Robbie, would you say you were a werewolf if they were like, all right, you're either a werewolf, admit to this, say you're a werewolf, or we're going to stick a poker where the sun don't shine? That's a pretty easy answer, right? You'd be like, I'm a werewolf.
I mean,
Would you?
I am kind of hard-headed.
I'd say I was a
know.
werewolf, probably.
It depends on
Depend on what it was, I guess.
It depends on how pissed off they had me at that point.
I know, right? Oh man, I would definitely plan on reincarnating and hunting them down, just like I was in some movie like Taken or something. Like I'd be like Jean-Claude Van Damme coming back to haunt them. After
I'd
that
probably
happened.
tell them, you better hope you kill me with that, because when I get out of here,
you better, yeah. Oh, all right, Eric, what about you?
Well, I'd
Would you
like to
say
talk
you're a
big
werewolf?
game and say I'd stand my ground, but honestly, I've never been put in a situation like that. I mean, most I've
Hopefully,
ever
never
had
have.
experience of it was, training in the military, which we're trained to keep, a certain mindset. Your name, your rank, social, and unit. I mean, that's all you need to know. But at the same time, you got something red and glowing going up to the brown eye. Well, I just don't
Oh
know.
my gosh. This is for entertainment purposes only, y'all. I forgot to say that tonight. Sometimes we do have to say that just because we're talking about silly stuff tonight.
You keep
But,
that thing away from my no square.
Yeah, no, don't touch me there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, barbaric. That's all that was. But oh my gosh. Well, this has been really fun, y'all, and thank y'all both for being here tonight. Robbie, thank you for hopping on, and I want both of y'all to tell the audience tonight. Let's start with Eric. Eric, tell everybody about your YouTube channel and about your books and where people can find you, and then we'll go to you, Robbie.
Probably can't see it in the background. I'm the host of the Bizarre and the Unknown. Saturdays at 5 o'clock Central Standard Time. We usually have campfire chats with Eric and guests, and that's a safe place for you to come and share your encounters. So if you want to talk about something, I'll bring you on. If you just want to talk about it in chat, we'll keep it in chat. But that was created by the subscribers. I mean my fan base. You guys created that show. That's your show. Sundays is my more professional, I guess you can say, show. That's the actual Bizarre and the Unknown, and that's on Sundays. Here in a couple days, my editor texted me yesterday or the day before, said he should have the final editing of Beast of the Ozark's first kill finished. So that should be coming out within the week if everything works out right. I've got the book cover created. Everything's all set up. Just got to download it and release it. So that'll be coming out here very soon. I've been working on Snow Fox, The Life of Snow Fox, and I've been working on a couple others as well.
Awesome. And people can get those on Amazon, right?
Amazon, Kindle, audio. Most of mine are on audio. One isn't, and that's just because the poor guy was in the California fires. So I gave him some time. It's like, man, get your stuff set up. We'll worry about getting it put out later. But all my books I do put out on audio. That's because I like to listen to audio books too. I know how it is. Yeah, I lose my butt on it, but it's something that helps everybody else out.
I can appreciate that. Yes, it's good to have it when you're commuting and stuff, when you're in the car a lot. And, yeah, I love that. Thank you, Eric. Thank you for being here. And Robbie, tell everybody about your podcast and your books and whatever else you got.
You can find me every Wednesday and Saturday night on DAX Machina at 8 o'clock Central Time, which is 9 o'clock mine and Jessica's time.
East Coast.
Yeah.
East Side.
Me, DA, Doc, Steve, or any combination of the four. Usually it's me and DA because Doc and Steve actually have to work, which I work, but I work during the day. But it's usually me and DA, and then Doc and Steve just pop in when they can, as much as they can. So you can find us every Wednesday and Saturday night, and Sunday nights we have been doing what we like to fondly call the RRA, the Redneck Reading Association, or Campfire Tales, if you want to be politically correct about it. We've been reading some of DA's books just to kind of. Now we are thinking about making that like the for the people who are members of the channel only. Still kind of working on that, but DA just got moved back into his house. I think they got pretty much everything in the house today. They got their last couple loads today, or maybe yesterday. One of those, Eric actually went and helped them get some of the big stuff. Thank you for that, Eric, because
oh man, my pleasure.
I'm 12 and a half hours away, and I want to help my best friend, and I can't because I'm 12 and a half hours away. So for me, Eric, thank you for going and helping him.
You're welcome, man. It's my pleasure.
And I really appreciate that because, Doc and I are so far away, we can't help him. And we really appreciate Eric going and doing that because, DA's doing a lot better with his stuff, but he don't need to be doing that kind of stuff. And a lot of it fell on Noah and Nick. And, so thank you for doing that. But anyway, I digress. As far as my books, same thing as Eric's. You can find them on Amazon. And I recently just put this one on Audible as well. So it's on Kindle, Audible, and paperback on Amazon. Book 2, or the first book is Shadow Walkers, Silver Star. Book 2 is Shadow Walkers, the Creature of Scapor Swamp. Kind of a little twist. We're going down the lower part of South Kakalaki looking for the Lizard Man.
I like it.
And that one should be getting ready to hit probably next week, maybe sooner. DA's got it right now, and he's doing the final formatting and putting the publisher information and all that kind of good stuff on it. It's got everything. It's been edited, everything. I got the new cover, everything ready to go. Just waiting on DA to get that. But there again, we're waiting on DA to get all his computer and stuff put back together in his new office. So, I guess I'll give him a little bit of a buy on that one, because he cut him a little bit of slack since he's basically been homeless for the past month. So, but no, it should be coming out, and it'll be on all platforms too. It'll be on ebook, paperback, Kindle, and Audible. So
that's so cool.
I don't know if you've seen that place he was at, Robbie. Man, I feel bad for them. Oh God.
Just pictures, and it didn't. I mean, I saw his little. I mean, he was in his office in his old house was small, but good gracious, he's basically in a hall in an alcove in a hall.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no, I bet it's going to be good to get back home then.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. That's cool that you live so close to DA too, Eric. I can appreciate that.
Man, it's
That's
fun.
cool.
I mean, the very first paranormal investigation I ever put on my YouTube, DA, his wife, and Noah were part of that. So, and then my youngest daughter was a part of the other one that I put out. That was her very first paranormal investigation she ever been on. And it's, man, just to be able to take your child on something like that, it's a feeling like no other when you take them out on investigations. So it was fun.
Yeah. I know a little something about that. I take my kid out sometimes with me. It just depends on where we're going. Okay. Especially if it's a daytime trip, he goes with me. But thank y'all so much for being here today. Y'all, everybody, please go and go purchase their books, everybody. Show some love to Robbie and to Eric, Ed Testerman, and Robbie Rains. Find their books on Amazon and Kindle. Okay. And go subscribe to The Bizarre and the Unknown and to DA Ex Machina over on YouTube, y'all. And guys, thank y'all so much for being here today. This has been really fun. And I got a special treat having both of y'all here tonight. And Robbie, thank you for hopping on with us. Yeah, it's always fun. We'll have to do this again.
Heck yeah.
Oh, and by the way, I am 3 chapters into book 3 now. By the way, too, I forgot to mention.
Oh, heck yeah! Dude, look at you.
He's cranking out the books. Robbie's cranking out the books. That's awesome.
Well,
I can't wait for book number 2.
I set a goal for myself to get 3 done before the school year was over, because I wasn't sure what I was going to do this summer. But I found out now I've got all I got to do is cover all 4 schools all summer, so I'm going to have plenty of time on my hands. So, but still, I wanted to get, that was the goal I set, and I'm going to accomplish it. So,
you can do it.
There. I mean, this is going to be, I think this is my 8th one that I've had published. I mean, before you know it, it's just bam, bam, bam. You're chucking them out. They're good. It's fun.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Well, that's awesome. I'm so proud of both of y'all. This is great. And so you guys, everybody go and show some support and some love to our fellow cryptid enthusiast over here. And I hope y'all will come back and see me and come hang out with us again here on the channel. And everybody go, make sure you go watch The Bizarre and the Unknown and DA Ex Machina throughout the week. And I'll be back here on Saturday night, y'all, on the hunt, 10 p.m. Come see me. It will be Easter. It'll be the night before Easter. Okay, so I'm not going to have a late show because the Easter Bunny's coming that night. But nonetheless, everybody enjoy your Good Friday. Is it tomorrow Good Friday, or was it last Friday Good Friday?
Right.
I don't remember. I guess it was last Friday, probably.
I think
it was last Friday.
Was Friday.
Palm Friday, and then tomorrow's Good Friday. Then,
Tomorrow's Good
and I
Friday.
think that we have school tomorrow, but I'm going to double check. Okay, that'd be great if we don't, but I will double check. We usually don't get that day off, I don't think, at our school, but I will definitely check. And everybody have a wonderful night. This has been so much fun. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you to all my mods for being here tonight and for all the support. And I will see you guys back here on Saturday. Y'all stay safe out there. Hope y'all learned something. I always learn something on these shows. And you guys do your own research on the Werewolves of Ossory and all these hidden settlements with the Egyptians and the Vikings all over the United States. All right, everybody. Have a great night. Don't live in fear. Live in awareness. And I'll see y'all Saturday. Bye, y'all.
Bye.